Good evening, 007.
My name is James Bond.
And members of your curious profession are few in number. You have been recognized. Let's say by one of your opposite numbers, who is also licensed to kill. Oh, that interesting car of yours. I too have a new toy, but considerably more practical. You are looking at an industrial laser, which emits an extraordinary light not to be found in nature. It can project a spot on the moon, or at closer range, cut through solid metal. I will show you. This is gold, Mr. Bond. All my life I've been in love with its color, its brilliance, its divine heaviness. I welcome any enterprise that will increase my stock, which is considerable.
I think you've made your point, Goldfinger. Thank you for the demonstration.
Choose your next witticism carefully, Mr. Bond. It may be your last. The purpose of our two previous encounters is now very clear to me. I do not intend to be distracted by another. Good night, Mr. Bond.
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Who are you?
Bond. James Bond.
I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. A relic of the Cold War.
Shaken, but not stirred.
007 reporting for duty.
These are the 00 Files.
Hello and welcome to another 00 Files movie review. My name is Martin and I will be your host for this episode. After last month's Die Another Day, we're going to look at what is probably one of the least polarizing movies in the franchise. It features one of the most suggestive names of all time, one of the most unconvincing seagulls of all time, one of the most recognizable theme songs of all time, and it turned James Bond from a two-hit wonder into a worldwide cultural icon. Yes, it's time for Goldfinger. Now, to help me through the greatness and flaws of this film, I will not be doing this review by myself. Instead, to my left, a man with a Midas touch and an 18-karat golden microphone, it's Don. Woohoo! Across from him, patiently smiling, his steel-brimmed bowler hat stuck in a dining room table, it's Tyler. And finally, returning from some good old-fashioned man talk in his powder blue onesie, it's Anthony.
Yoo-hoo!
Gentlemen, warm welcome to you all. Excited about Goldfinger?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Very good. Now that we've been formally introduced, let's take a look at the film at hand. Goldfinger premiered September 17th, 1964, with the release a day later. Main cast is Sean Connery returning for his third performance as 007. Pussy Galore is played by Honor Blackman. Auric Goldfinger by Gert Frobe. We have CIA agent Felix Leiter, played by Zach Linner in this film. Oddjob, the manservant, is played by Harold Sakata. And we have Tanya Mallet and Shirley Eaton as the Masterson sisters. Back in London, we have Desmond Llewellyn reprising his role as Q, Moneypenny being played by the wonderful Lois Maxwell, and Bernard Lee as M. The film was directed by Guy Hamilton, cinematography is done by Ted Moore, and we have the second soundtrack by John Barry.
And let's not forget Ken Adam.
And Ken Adam, production designer, of course. There will be plenty about Ken Adam this podcast, I think, but for now, a quick summary. Goldfinger takes us on 007's mission to investigate the titular character of Auric Goldfinger, who is suspected of smuggling gold across Europe for mysterious purposes. On his mission, Bond has some more of a rather disappointing brandy, acquires a completely inconspicuous car, plays a round of golf with a cheat, ruins some product placement, hides under a miniature of Kentucky, meets a circus leader, and enjoys a nice mint julep. Any remarks? Anything we want to...
No, that's Goldfinger.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to talk about GoldenEye, by the way.
Gold something.
Oh, yeah.
Right. The film opens with Bob Simmons' third gun barrel. I noted down some swanky music, and I said richer. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. I think this is one of the most recognizable soundtrack.
I mean, the music of the gun barrel.
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect music for the
It's
gun
very
barrel.
with the twangy guitar
Like
and
if you
everything.
think about the perfect gun barrel.
It's
in your
right up.
head,
It's right up there with Diamonds for me.
the music.
The music.
Yeah. Maybe. I can't remember Diamonds now.
Just as good. It's John Barry.
It's John,
But
yeah.
the music is excellent, and Bob Simmons is Bob Simmons. Same as in Dr. No. We
Yeah.
already reviewed that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But especially the guitar. I agree
Yeah.
with you. It sounds so. It's a bitchy guitar. It sounds.
And it
yeah,
continues as well. The music, it continues into the scene. I like that.
It sort of like
Yeah.
goes soft a little bit, and then it continues on. It continues on with a shot of some sort of dock at night. The world's fakest seagull swims up to the stairs before we're shown it to be a decoy. A very obvious stunt double swims up to the stairs before we cut to a sped-up Jean Connery removing the seagull from his head and climbing up the ladder.
It was supposed to be a cadaver of a dead dog, huh?
Yeah, I read about
disgusting.
that.
Yeah.
That's
That's
But
what the
some
producers
kind of-
wanted, but in the end,
What did Connery say? I'm not having that thing on my head.
I'm that dog.
Probably,
I'm that
yeah.
dog. No, but Guy Hamilton didn't want it.
But immediately the tone is different. First seconds of the
Yeah.
film, you realize this is not a serious film.
No,
But it's
true.
still a great gag.
It is. Yeah.
But the tone is immediately it's different. And I like that. I like the change.
Yeah, it's very
When I recently rewatched Goldfinger, there was also one word that stuck into my mind, which was fun.
Definitely,
It's fun to see the film. It looks like they had fun
They had
making
fun, yeah.
the film, and it's not funny, but it's fun, and I think that's one of the strengths of the film.
yeah,
Guy
it
Hamilton
really is, yeah.
decided to put all the elements of the Bond movies into that pre-title sequence. So you have it starts with the gadget of the seagull on his head. Then we get some action of him kicking the guard. Then we get some elaborate sets with the factory. And then we get some exotic sex with cabaret dancer. We get an explosion. We get another fight, so some more action. And then we get the punchline of shocking, positively shocking, with some extra humor. So all the elements of the Bond movies are
Crammed.
tightly fitted together in that
What is it?
in that pre-title sequence.
It's like
Yeah.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is, I think, one of the staple pre-titles in the same sense that it's a miniature Bond movie. It's just a small little... It has nothing to do with the rest of the plot. It's just... It's, like you said, it's fun.
And about what you said, I found something, a paragraph in from Some Kind of Hero. Let me just read that. It's Richard Maybaum, the screenwriter. He felt that he needed to play with audiences' growing sophistication. And he said, we dare to do something seldom done in action pictures. We mixed what was funny with what was serious.
Yeah.
But Fleming was not quite so sure. The screenwriter recalled Ian saying to him, the pictures are so much funnier than my books. He was a little bit amused and a little obtuse about it, because he really didn't understand that we were trying to make them funnier.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main difference between the cinematic Bond that we now know of
Yeah.
and the literary Bond.
I think the biggest difference is that in the movies, and especially the movies from Goldfinger onwards, Bond himself is funny as well.
Yeah.
And in the novels, the stories are funny and exciting, and also
But Bond is a serious character.
Bond is a serious character within all that. But there are some really funny parts in Moonraker, for instance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
like I say,
agree,
it's
yeah.
like the book Bond finds himself in funny situations,
Yeah.
and in this one, yeah.
But also the tone is much grittier, darker, more serious, more dark humor, black humor. And in the films, everything is,
It's a bit more
especially in
lighthearted,
Goldfinger, there
yeah.
was a lot of winking and smiling
Yeah.
and looking happy and chirpy.
I think Gert Frobe, you see him smile at least 30 times in the film. Can you name any other Bond villain that
He
smiles?
was having such a good time.
He didn't know what was happening around him. What am I doing?
Just smile and wave,
smile.
boys. Right. I just want to rewind a few seconds. Like I said, Bond climbs up the dock and over a wall, kicks the guard in the face, and runs toward a fuel storage tank. That is probably one of the coolest moments we've seen of Bond thus far, with the music and.
I really like the music. It has that
outfit is
speed
cool
to
as
it.
well,
The velocity is like. Great. But how does that gun work? I don't understand the gun.
I was going to say he shoots
He shoots from the
wire
barrel,
comes from
but then the
somewhere
wire
else.
comes from
Below
a
him?
yard away or something.
Yeah, and then like you see the
cable, the with the hook.
It's inside the seagull.
So the dead seagull flies over the wall.
Yeah. Something like that. It flies along over the wall. Yeah.
Oh, that's why it wasn't a dog, because
That would really,
that
really
production
ridiculous.
value would be impossible. Yeah.
That's a flying dog.
And then the guard, when he looks up, all of a sudden he's jumped by Sean Connery.
from the complete different angle. Like how fast did Sean get up the hill? Oh well.
And hide himself.
Oh, well, it's such a cool scene. It's one of them those goosebump moments. You know, you're straight up into a Bond film.
Great fun. And those silos, I was actually I didn't visit them, but they're
you
right next to Heathrow.
Yeah. You went there.
So next time.
I actually saw them from the plane, and that was it. But
So we're not in Mexico.
No, sadly, it's not in Mexico. In fact, I think all the main cast stayed in the UK, right?
And Switzerland.
There you
Switzerland,
go,
of course.
Switzerland. Yeah. But that's it, yeah.
Boring.
Yeah.
You think,
No, they
I'm gonna shoot a
probably
Bond
did
film?
something in Kentucky as well.
Magic. Sorry?
They probably went to Kentucky as well, or was the entire farm?
No, the farm was
start
in
of
the farm was in England.
Really? All right.
The farm itself was in Pinewood or in England. But obviously they did shoot in the States, but not with the main cast.
No.
It was
So only
mostly,
Seglander
was the
was there.
second unit.
Yeah. You said he looks so utterly cool, Bond, when he jumps over
Yeah.
the wall. But I think a few seconds later, when we see him enter,
Yeah.
I personally, this is my most favorite pre-title sequence, and I think Bond never looked cooler in any of those 24 films than when he enters that bar. The way he looks, the sound, when the explosion, when you hear the explosion, he looks really casual.
It's a Bond truly on top of everything. Everything he does has gone according to plan. It's all gone perfectly, and he's just like revels in his own job. Well done.
Yeah.
The moment that always cracks me up is the one moment when he takes off his seagull. You hear that? I love that sound.
They fast forwarded that image.
Because it was stuck or something.
But was
Get
it
it off quick enough?
Did they win an Oscar here for the music, for the sound
for the
effects?
sounds.
Yeah, so that sound, whatever it is, it's good
won an
enough
Oscar.
to win an
Wow.
Oscar, yeah.
Okay.
It's that or aha.
That's a good sound effect too. That might be the crushing of the car later. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Bond enters the bar. He talks to a contact, smoozes with a girl, and has a fight with a henchman, which he spots in the girl's eye reflection, which I never quite understood how you can see someone like through your head in someone else's eyes, but
Maybe he just saw her eyes looking at him because she was watching him.
no, like you see actually like in the
Yeah, I know
the
that we can see
Blu-ray,
it, but I'm not
yeah.
sure that Bond people can see it. But
We should try it out. Maybe it does work.
about the silos still, I love it that the...
Don is fan of silos.
Silos.
No, but that's one of those sets that you can only see for half a minute. And it's an excellent set.
It looks so
It
good.
looks
Yeah.
very impressive.
True. It reminds me a bit of the spider room from Dr. No.
Yeah.
The ceiling and the...
Yeah. Shot from...
Yeah, I was.
Orlando.
There's some more sets in this film which are used for a very short amount of time, but it's one of the things which mainly Barbara Broccoli likes to throw out there that her father always said, put the money on the screen, and this is definitely one of those occasions. I mean, if you look at right after the pre-title scenes with all the very ancient back projection and everything, and then compare it to a set like this, which is like visible for a minute max. And Bond disposes of said goon in pure Bond style and delivers his first pun. Gentlemen?
Shocking.
I recently watched Goldfinger with my girlfriend for the first time, and she said, "Oh, he's really tough on her."
On the girl, uses her
Just
as a
wait till you
human
see
shield.
Dink, and just wait till you see Pussy, and just
Yeah.
It was so sad to hear that she recently passed away.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we'll get to Tanya in a minute.
Yeah.
As soon as Bond closes the door, we are greeted with the deafening sound of blaring horns for probably one of the most famous Bond themes ever.
And do you think that is the perfect transition from pre-title sequence into a song? The moment
I
you
was-
close the door, you hear...
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and it like the last time I watched it was earlier this week. It's one of the few ones where I think the song works a lot better in the film than as a standalone song. I don't like the song itself, but as like...
Okay, stop talking now.
Don is a huge fan of the song.
Yeah.
No, I think it works a lot better with the visuals of the production on the lady and like as a part of the film than it does as a standalone song.
This is a public service announcement. The 00 files will continue with 3 members from here on.
Hey, but we're already at the song, but we skipped over the white dinner jacket.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the
and
nightclub.
then looking at the
once
watch
again.
and being cool and Bonita's dancing and everything.
And I just thought about myself. I have the extended soundtrack from Goldfinger.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you have an extended edition of Goldfinger.
Yeah,
film.
it's 2.5 hours long. Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's much more with Jill Masterson. No, but I have the soundtrack, but there is one cue that's not on there, and I want to have it. I'm going to download it later this weekend, and that's the brief bit that you hear when Bon enters.
You
know that part?
The little swanky
When he walks
nightclub.
into the nightclub and you see her dancing a bit.
You search it, you find it, you download it, you send it to me,
Yeah,
I'll
we'll
edit it into here.
I'm gonna do it, yeah. I want to have it.
Yeah.
It's almost as cool as the bit you hear when we first enter Oryx Stud.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Tyler doesn't agree with me.
Oh no, I'm completely. I don't know what part you're talking about. So but I do agree that we should at least mention probably the best piece of product placement in the entire Bond franchise that wasn't product placement, which is the Rolex watch.
You're wrong there, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, well, I think that little shot of the Rolex watch on the
It's so subtle and
RAF strap that probably sold a lot more Rolexes than Omega will ever be able to accomplish.
And it also sold a lot more NATO straps than Omega will ever be able to.
Well, they were actually RAF straps because a NATO straps has a double link at the bottom.
Okay.
So it's slightly different, but
Yeah, it's one, like if you compare this scene with him just checking his watch, and if you just compare it with the Casino Royale train scene, I'm like, yeah, that's two ways of doing product placement.
or the Skyfall where he punches it in your face for 5 minutes in the pre-title sequence. Yes, have my Omega, have my Omega.
Dash was saying, is that a Rolex?
And this is coming from the guy with 2 Omegas in his collection. So,
and this entire pre-title sequence is the entire first 2 or 3 chapters of the book, when he's supposed to be in Mexico meeting up with Mr. Dupont. It's just an excuse for him to be there when they want to open up in Miami. And immediately here you can see how much they deviate from the book. They really try to distance themselves from the thriller.
I know a lot of people say that the Goldfinger movie is one of the few movies that really add to the book.
They took out mostly.
Yeah, but I mean, Goldfinger's plan makes a bit more sense in the movie compared to the.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I think those first 4 or 5 chapters in the novel are amazing. It's spectacular with the Dupont scene and then having stone crabs together with him and then
pink champagne.
Yeah, and then meeting Goldfinger by the swimming pool with the contraption around his head to make sure that his ears are also get the sun
underneath the chin or something.
Yeah. I think it's a shame that they did it so.
It actually makes more sense in the book, even though it's also coincidence. Over here in this book, in the film, it's complete coincidence that Felix is being sent by M for him to check out Goldfinger, and he happens to be right there.
It's the guy who's been waiting at the top of the stairs.
Action. Yep.
Yeah, but we'll get to that in a moment.
That was probably because of the little device he has now. He turns on when he's talking to Mr. Simmons. It's probably like some kind of hearing aid. So whenever you hear someone say Goldfinger, just walks down the stairs.
Right. What I still like about the pre-title is
the silos. Back to the silos.
Oh God!
I like Sean's humor. So when he says, "I have unfinished business," he means he has to shag a girl. And,
I love when he said like the slight,
what is it? I have a slight inferiority complex. Yeah, I like those lines. It's really great.
Like Sean really chucks them out. He's completely at ease at the bar.
He looks so comfortable.
Yeah, like half the movie just looks like it's improvised or just ad-libbed. It's
Is Goldfinger his best performance as Bond?
It's a different
one of the-
performance.
it's a
I think
very
it's
confident
different
one.
from the previous two. I wouldn't say he's better.
No, like I said, he's very confident.
It fits the film.
It fits the film. Yeah.
The film is more light-hearted, faster paced. Yeah, the tone, it's lighter, doesn't take itself very seriously.
No.
Yeah.
Shall we
I'll shut up about the silence now.
Can we stay in the bar? Just for fun.
Yeah, right. So this rounds up this No. But any more to say about any of the pre-title, or should we just have a listen to Shirley Bassey?
Can we listen to it in its entirety? Just because it's the greatest song ever?
No.
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 Just a small clip then.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch, a spider's touch, such a cold finger beckons you to enter his web of sin.
Right. Now enough about the song itself. Anyone want to elaborate on this or talk about the visuals?
I don't like the visuals.
What?
Here we go.
It's just you and me, Anthony.
I haven't said anything about the visuals. I just talked about the song.
That's
really
bad
like
enough.
the visuals.
Well, sorry, Don, but I'm on Tyler on this part. Yeah.
Really? You don't like the visuals?
No,
What?
because I can explain it. I don't like the fact that they use images from the film.
Exactly.
Well, that's
However, I do like the golf ball disappearing in the cleavage of the ink. That I do like.
Yes.
That's the only part I like of the of the title.
But don't you think it's wonderful that you think about painting a woman gold and then projecting stuff?
No,
on her?
absolutely.
It's the same as From Russia with Love.
It is, but I just don't
I
like
love the
them using
concepts.
pictures from the film.
Why not?
It's a bit too much.
It gives away some stuff.
Yeah, they show a bit too much of the movie. And they also use a clip from Russia with
I was going to
Love.
say they like run out of footage and then.
But
And
does
then-
it spoil the film then, you think? Or what?
No.
No, it doesn't really spoil
But
it, but
Sets the
it
mood.
takes away some of the surprises that you will get later on.
And it's
in the
not
movie.
necessary.
They did the same thing in Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
It might be the first one or the second one.
all of them.
All of them. Yeah, they go through like the different locations where they are and stuff.
It's
I
not
like it
necessary.
there, but
if
I
you
don't
just
know.
if you just had the image of the golden girl, I think you can do a lot of cool stuff with it in the title sequences. You don't need to see
project.
parts from the film yet.
It's like 4 minutes of clips from the movie.
Yeah.
And 4 minutes is a long time. But to each his own.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I like the golf ball. I like the revolving number plates and on top of the mouth. But yeah.
I can see both sides of this.
Yeah. When I was watching it, I wrote down Robert Brownjohn is a genius, but I guess I'm the only one.
No, like I said, I really like the concept, but
This is
I'm
the
not
last
sure I
one,
would've-
right? He only did the two.
I read he had an addiction to a drug addiction.
Oh, that's sad.
And he also had an argument with Saltzman on this picture, and that was probably the reason that they didn't ask him to come back. And he died around 1970 or something like that.
Okay.
Oh. No, from here on out we get Maurice Binder up until License to Kill.
Yeah.
Yep,
So the song then. Yeah, I really love it.
it's terrific.
It's a bit too loud for me.
Too loud?
Yeah, no, it's like your ears start bleeding if you. It's like I said.
Your
I
favorite
really
song
like
is You Know My Name, right?
The theatrical version, yeah, but that's different. I like to compare this one to Thunderball, which is also very loud and very brassy and like the whole big band thing.
I can
but
see
I
that, yeah.
like that one more because it builds up more. This is just like everyone trying to make their own microphone explode.
Wasn't it that even Shirley Bassey didn't know what she was singing about?
Yeah, you said that.
Just
yeah.
sing it.
Yeah, it's like, why did you do it? Yeah, I just love gold.
Yeah.
So she had no idea, but
Go for it.
Yeah, and she was advised, or she figured it out herself, that she needed to take off her bra to get to the high notes.
yeah. That's something everyone always likes to say.
Yeah.
Even John Barry always said it countless of times.
I can do it again. She needed to take off her bra.
But does she still do that when she performs the song live on stage? She say, "Wait a minute, guys."
I don't know.
Yeah, probably, but they're not as perky anymore as they used to be. So the visuals are a bit muddy nowadays.
Okay.
Whatever. I'm sure you all have a playlist on your computer with all the theme songs, and then after this normally comes Thunderball. But as soon as this song ends, you immediately roll into.
You just said how the transition from the pre-title sequence to the title sequence was spot on, but I also think from the title sequence to the Miami sequence.
It's one of my favorite cues. I was going to say, just delving into it, the opening shot of Miami Beach and it's just such a feeling of high class, rich, like this big luxurious lifestyle that just clings to the music, which is one of Barry's trademark things. He can really get some sense of style and like he could almost put a price tag on it with his music, and that's just
a great tune.
genius.
It's a great tune. The only problem is that it's too short.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember there was this one episode of I think it was the old BBC Top Gear one, where the three men they drive to Monte Carlo. Like the very second they drive up, they have like this sort of GoldenEye like shot where you see Monaco and the casino, and they use this music as well, and it fits it so incredibly well. It's one of my probably one of my favorite soundtrack tracks.
And I love the aerial shot as well.
Yeah.
That's well before drones. That's an amazing shot. It's very well timed, or it's just luck. But again, you get a perfect transition because you have the beautiful aerial over the pool, and the guy jumps in, and then they cut to Felix Leiter.
The editing is very good.
And then it's like a mermaid swims by when Felix Leiter passes
and he turns around and then someone's ice skating. It's just
even by today's standards, it still looks like a really luxurious hotel.
Being James Bond just did a video on the Fontainebleau in Miami Beach, and it still looks really great. You often see that hotels like this, they become a bit shabby and the paint starts to flack and things like that, but this still looks great.
So I have to put it on my list of possible locations to visit.
I was going to say, anyone's got a price tag, we can do a live podcast from there, from the balcony.
To give you an idea, if you order a martini near the swimming pool, you pay $25 for a martini, which is probably just a sauced olive. So
right, yeah.
So if anyone would like to sponsor us,
yes.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it is shot at the Fontainebleau, but in the novel, Dupont says he's the owner of a hotel that's the rival of the Fontainebleau.
Maybe that's the reason they only sent C. Linder there on location
Yeah.
to save costs.
I was talking about him. Don't know if you guys know how or why he was cast as the Leiter, because it's like the first one is almost, well, up until Hedison in License, it was almost a tradition to get a new Leiter every film.
It was supposed to be the other way around, huh?
Yeah, it was supposed to be Jack Lord again, but he was very...
That was the first
Yeah,
one.
that was the first, But he was too popular with...
He wanted to...
Yeah,
he wanted a
wanted
percentage, I think.
He wanted co-star billing and a lot more money
like
and stuff like that, because he was already
Hollywood
quite
stars.
famous and doing the original Hawaii Five-0 and all that stuff. So.
But the actor who plays Simmons was supposed to be Felix Leiter, and Zack Linder was supposed to play Simmons.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
For some reason they switched around. And the other actor who plays Simmons wasn't happy because all of a sudden, instead of a couple of weeks work, he only had 1 or 2 days. That's a shame. Yeah. But I don't understand this sentence. Maybe you do. When Felix walks in on 007, he says, "You must be slipping 007, letting the opposition get that close to you." What opposition?
You're a friend, right?
Is it Bonita? And her...
Is that a reference to the pre-title sequence?
Or
is it that
I thought,
he was not aware that Felix was able to get that close?
I don't think Felix would consider himself
No,
the
exactly.
opposition.
But it might be a joke. Then
I never saw the link with the pre-title sequence.
it might be that. Pay attention, 007. I could just sneak up on you right now. Suppose I was one of the opposition.
That's how I interpret.
As a joke.
Could be.
Yeah. I don't like him, by
And
the
then,
way.
but
as
then
an
his
actor.
reply is, I don't get that either. He says, they got a lot closer to you in Jamaica. What was that about?
There was someone swimming behind the boat or something. I don't know.
Okay, let's assume they went on a mission in Jamaica. That was...
It was
After
the
Dr. No,
60s.
you
Everybody
mean.
was stoned out of
another
his
one.
mind.
Yeah, they were
But
there.
you don't like this actor
No,
as Felix?
no, I don't feel any form of friendship between the two of them, or a connection. Or he looks a bit like a
He looks
like a
your uncle.
lazy detective.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I can see
I
that.
wrote down he's a bit bland, but I do think he's got some warmth to him. I don't know. He just looks for like the friendly lighter you get
Yeah,
in the books.
it's no Norman, but
I think it was the point of him being bland, that they wanted him to be
As to not
everyday
overshadow.
man. Yeah, exactly. Wasted opportunity.
It's a Felix that I fondly remember.
Yeah,
Really like the guy.
I don't
Yeah.
really mind him.
I think he's
yeah.
very memorable.
Yeah.
With his-
memorable.
with his sack suit and his hat and his that's my James. I kind of like the guy.
We have liquor for 3.
Exactly. Lights like that. Yeah.
No,
Oh well.
no, then
That's good.
I prefer Jack Lord or Rick Van Nutter.
I like Rick Van
No,
Nutter.
I don't like Rick. That's funny. I don't like Rick at all.
No.
Still have to get the best Felix.
But
Still haven't got him.
No, at least we do
No.
get Dink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Now
I'm
she wanted
getting
to be
some
in the
man
film.
talk.
She insisted on being in the film, otherwise she wouldn't do the pre-titles.
I'm happy that she did. Man talk.
Terrific scene.
Yeah. Like I watched it a few days ago while I was packing. I just had it on in the background, and like my girlfriend walked in right at this point, like man talk, and she's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yep." Like if you don't like this, don't come back in like an hour or so because it's gonna get a lot worse.
Yes, it does. It does
Yeah.
get worse.
But well, it's a product of
It's
its
a bit of
time.
fun.
I think
It's a
yeah.
bit of fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
come on.
Obviously, she wanted, especially she asked to be in the film.
Yeah.
But, otherwise, she wouldn't do the pre-title. So
No.
she wanted this for some reason.
You shouldn't judge a movie by today's standard.
No, definitely.
No,
So,
absolutely.
like you said, it's a product of its time. But
I think it's a fun little scene, just like you said. It sort of sets the tone. You know, it's lighter. It's more. I can really imagine Sean like hitting on the back, something he just did on the spot, and they kept in.
was it
Even with the sound
Fleming?
effect.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, he could, if he wanted to stay true to Fleming, he could have said something like "Go mind your pots and pans" or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been probably a bit
Yeah.
worse than it is now. So.
Bond is told to observe the bullion dealer or a Goldfinger, who very conveniently comes down the stairs the very second Felix points at him and says his name.
So now in HD, watching the film, it had serious doubts that was
Yeah.
Gerd Fröbe walking down the stairs.
He isn't.
No, he isn't. No. It's a bad wig on a fat man. It's close enough. Wearing something yellow. So it's close enough.
They just picked a fat guy and said, "Yo,
Yeah.
just come down the stairs." That's
We
okay.
need a fat guy. Come here. Put this wig on.
Yeah, and action. Yeah,
Like a French Neil Varnish.
yeah. I was gonna say he's British, though he doesn't sound like it. Like, is anyone for even a second convinced that Goldfinger is English? His
No,
looks, his
but like in
accent
the
is-
book, he's not English or born in the UK in the book, but he is British. Like he
Yeah,
adopted
okay,
their
yeah.
nationality.
Yeah.
So,
But like in
he
the film, they
probably
make it
comes from a
sound like
different
he's-
country.
yeah.
In this case, Germany. In the book, it's different. But I'm not going to say that because it might be a trivia question. So I'm going to keep stum.
No, there are not many trivia questions this
Okay,
round, so you can go nuts for your
So in that
details.
case, in the book, he came from Latvia, from the capital Riga, where he made his money.
Yeah, but if you see Gerd Fröbe, you would believe he would
He
come
might
from that
be,
country as
yeah,
well.
Yeah, it could be. But he's obviously German. With the
He's also a lot taller in the movie because in the
Yeah,
novel he's
yeah.
like 5'1" or
Yeah,
something
he's
like
tiny,
that. Yeah.
with a big round head.
Yeah. Yeah. He looks like a man who's put together from different parts of other people.
Now,
I really like that one.
suspect what Fleming had against
People.
foreigners,
Yep.
fat
Women.
people,
Women, fat people.
redheads, homosexuals. The list is endless.
Everybody not Ian Fleming.
Probably. Yep.
He wasn't even the first choice, Gerd.
No.
You have the screen test, of course, on the extras from
Was
the
it Orson
DVDs.
Welles?
No. There were two guys. You have the screen tests that are on the extras from the DVD as well.
Yeah.
One of them was called Theodore Bickel, I thought. I can't remember the name of the other guy.
The
Someone
guy-
else.
Was that the first one? Was the guy with the round glasses and the,
Yeah,
and
that
the
one, yeah.
hedgehog hairdo. He looks like a hedgehog to me. I don't know why, but
it is a good moment to talk about the casting. I mean, I think never have I linked a character and a voice to someone. Like, I think this is one of the someone would just hand me the book Goldfinger, I can really picture him. Yeah. It's good. It's very good
also,
likeness.
Yeah, I think you cannot remake Goldfinger.
No.
Even though it's 55 years old.
So many great castings, as we said in the From Russia with Love one as well. It's just great casting all around. Again,
I don't think all around. We'll get back to that later, but I think Gert Frobey as Goldfinger is spot on. He is one of my favorite Bond villains, and the reason why is because he looks as if he's having fun all the time. Everything Bond does, he just smiles and thinks, it's no problem. I'm on top of this and no problem. So the way he performs his role is so relaxed, but at the same time chilling, menacing.
And having fun.
Yeah.
And really enjoying himself,
And the ADR is amazing as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Most of the time, yeah.
Works really well.
This is something that I found on IMDb, which is nice to insert here. You probably know this. He was probably named after the Hungarian architect Erno Goldfinger. So when he learned that Fleming was naming the villain of his new James Bond novel Goldfinger, he threatened to file a lawsuit against Fleming's publisher in an effort to stop the book's publication. And then Fleming's publisher contacted the author to inquire whether Fleming might consider renaming the character and the novel. And Fleming replied that he'd be delighted to alter the name if he could change the name of the character and the novel to Goldprick. And then the Fleming's publisher quietly settled the architect's lawsuit out of court. Goldprick. That's almost as bad as Goldmember.
Yes,
that's great.
But they did find some middle ground, right? Because it was decided that Fleming would always refer to him in the book as Auric Goldfinger. That was the initial plan, and they
Well, it didn't.
But they didn't.
It didn't go through with that.
But just, how cool is it if they would name the Bond villain of the new Bond film and give him your name?
I wouldn't mind.
No, I wouldn't mind either. I wouldn't sue them.
They would never be able to pronounce it.
No, just go ahead.
I think I would mind.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
You're part of Bond history.
Part of canon.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you never know how popular it's going to be, but I know if you look at the other fellow documentary, having like a world famous character named having the same name can be difficult. Yeah. Like to try to board a plane or do anything. An actual name is James Bond or Pussy Galore or whatever. No, I don't think anyone's going to take you seriously.
I don't know if there are that many people out there called Pussy Galore.
I don't know. Well, if there is, you can contact us. I can see where you're coming from, Tyler.
I already had to change my last name from Durden, so we can't do this too often, right?
Once he's Goldfinger cheating at Jin because he walks by. I never got that until the fourth or fifth time. Like he actually walks behind Goldfinger and looks up from that viewpoint, and then
figures it out.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like a split second thing. Bond makes his way to Mr. Goldfinger's suite and says to the charming maid that she's very sweet, and then finds Jill Masterson lying on the bed, helping Goldfinger cheat.
That maid should be fired.
Yep.
Now, I thought about this scene for a long time because I've listened to all the episodes of James Bond Radio. And one of their questions they always ask in their interviews is, what is your favorite scene out of the entire franchise? And that starts here. It's the moment Bond walks through the hallway and he picks the key from the maid. I love that bit.
He's so smooth.
Yeah, he's very smooth.
Yeah.
For some reason, she has a key that fits all locks, but
they always have
master key or something.
Master key, because she's cleaning the rooms.
Yeah. But she's so sweet.
But I can kind of agree with you. I mean, Bond turns off the radio, and then the whole line Bond, James Bond, just so careless. And with the music.
Oh my goodness gracious me!
All right. Time out. Are we totally going to ignore the terry cloth baby blue?
No, of course not. That's part of the brilliance of the scene. That's the perfect outfit. I mean, there's an amazing animated GIF out there on the internet where Sean Connery is
zipping it up
and down all the time, and Felix is looking very awkward. I could look at that for hours. But the entire outfit, the onesie, is amazing.
But was this really popular back in '64?
No,
thank God it wasn't.
Why did they?
It never was, and it never will, I guess.
However, Oliver Brown
will be releasing it. Yes.
By the time this comes out, it has probably released.
It's probably been sold out. you look at the swimwear and
I really want that. I want to put that on a Saturday morning. And
But there are people at Etsy on
go to the
Etsy who
store.
make it. So, and the one made by Orla Bar Brown will not be totally screen accurate.
yeah.
It will
It'll
be
be,
like a new interpretation
yeah,
of a
$5,000.
classic. But people on Etsy make it, and really, really pretty much the way it is supposed to be. If there is a way that this is supposed to be.
I think I would look good in it. Actually,
You got the legs done. You got
there you go.
no problem.
I could always shave them.
Connery didn't say
quite
shave
sure
them
that
either.
Connery didn't
No.
shave
Oh, but Connery, when he walks into that room, panther-like, and he hears
Yeah.
her speak on
I
the
agree.
radio, and you get the classic Bond, James Bond with
Yeah.
the
the
music.
music swells up a bit.
Yeah, and with
then-
the
yeah.
screams from the pool in the background, which I always thought is pretty strange.
Because
What do you mean?
I don't know. The sound mix sounds odd for someone who's
Oh,
on
that
top
way, yeah.
on a balcony. On
This
the
is also
17th floor.
something I think they improved from the book, because in the book he sneaks in and he tries very awkwardly to take a photo of the whole
standing
scene.
on the table.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense
No.
because he wants photographic proof. But here it's just good enough. It's fun.
I also like the throwaway of the Bond James Bond
Yeah.
line. It's not like
Like
the
it's complete
Bond, not the
disinterest.
Brosnan
Yeah.
style. No, it's okay. Everybody silence. Give me close up.
of it?
No, but he doesn't even look at her. He just looks casually down toward the pool.
I wrote down, Jill is divine.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can
So
agree.
perfect.
Yeah.
Especially when she's wearing his pajama top.
It's cool.
That's
We're,
even later.
we're only 10 minutes in the movie and we already saw 3 delicious ladies.
Yeah, and she's fierce as well when she sees him. Who are you? It's very, very.
Who are you? Oh wait, you're the most beautiful man I've ever met for a long
I'm
time,
getting to like
James.
James.
Oh, take me now. Yeah,
I like the conversation
So
between
why
the two
was
of them.
she dubbed? She's English,
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, but
Everybody's
maybe
dubbed.
she...
Not sexy enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure. Maybe it was a money issue as well, because I believe that people with actual dialogue, with actual lines, are paid a lot more than the people without lines. So that might be it. That an actress might be a lot cheaper if she doesn't. Her voice isn't in the movie.
Well,
yeah, but like looking at
and Nikki
the
was
budget.
there anyway, so
Yeah, I was going to say, well, looking at the.
anyway. Yeah, but I met her a couple of years ago at a
Shirley?
film convention. And I asked her for an autograph, and she said, "Yes, Anthony, you can have my autograph." So that's probably the reason. That's a strange choice.
She is like the stereotypical 60s Bond girl, isn't she? With the long golden hair and the suntan.
And there's so many pictures online
Yeah.
of her being painted gold. And when I was growing up, there was still that rumor. That was in the 80s, early 90s. There was still the rumor
That she actually.
that she actually died during filming. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, the whole skin suffocation has been debunked over and over again.
But it sounds believable when you watch the film. You think, okay,
And it's
cool.
so iconic.
Yeah.
And this is not even in the book. The whole gold being
Yeah, I was going to say
painted gold.
They've introduced so many iconic scenes in this
I
film
mean, yeah,
alone, which is just.
it happens in the book, but Bond hears of it. He doesn't actually witness it. He goes away with her in the book.
Yeah,
on the
it's
train.
it's a very good, but also somewhat disturbing image when you just see her lying there and then
gold,
with the clock in the background.
But
and,
before we get there, we have
the
two
money
great,
shot.
We have-
two great
yeah.
dialogues. First on the balcony, and later on in
Nod.
bed.
But I like that on the balcony. The money shot is when she's asking, "Can I have a look?" And
Yeah.
she bends forward,
Oh,
and
that's
Connery is
true.
with his nose right between her breasts, and he's like,
Not giving 1 inch. Look at that. But I also like the fact that he
He's
pulls,
like,
he
"Don't
pulls
mind
her
if I-"
closer later
Yeah.
to give her a kiss. Yeah. Ah,
Yeah, but I
fantastic.
like Bond's cockiness to Goldfinger as well. That's just great.
Yeah.
He's having such fun
"Look
with
here,
it.
Goldfinger." And that's the best binoculars ever because it also
Yeah.
picks up sound. You can hear the pencil break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's mad. Goldfinger.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's such a great, just overall, everything's great. And I always thought, she says, "Can I have a look while the thing's on?" So I always thought, like, that's why she was painted gold, as to silence her. Or am I thinking too much into it?
It's punishment, I think.
Yeah.
And also
in the
sending
book it's
a message.
explained
Yeah,
as being
but-
punishment.
And sending a
I was
message
gonna
as
say,
well.
it explains why she has to be killed.
I'm sorry, I'm still with the binoculars. So in our last movie review, we had slow motion binoculars, and now
Made
we
by
have
Q, probably.
Now,
Yeah,
we have audio binoculars.
yeah.
In 64.
There's
way.
probably a binocular trilogy coming up. I'm not sure, but here's looking at you.
So we get room service.
Bond and Jill are entirely satisfied, as is the president. And Bond gets out of bed because Dom Perignon should never be had above a temperature of
38.5
degrees Fahrenheit.
38 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah.
Oh, 38.
It's lost its chill. And that's the weird. Yeah, that's the weirdest telephone. Or are those just hotel phones that you can?
I
only
think it is.
connect
It's just to the reception,
Yeah.
and then.
But yeah, he has to get some more passion juice because he lost all his passion juice. It's internal. Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
Well, we have no idea how much time has passed.
So where was Oddjob?
Hiding in the closet? Watching through the people? So I don't know.
He was doing a bit excellent.
But it's great. What they did here is they created an image in your mind with only the use of a shadow and a sound.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. Bing,
Yeah.
bing.
And I think
I love how like the tonal shift. You know, Bond just opens the fridge and you see the hand, and then boom, and then it's over.
And you see, especially on the internet, the discussion what is the most memorable or best henchman, and it's always Oddjob or Jaws.
Yeah.
And I prefer Oddjob because every time Oddjob and Bond meet each other, Oddjob wins until the final confrontation, whereas Jaws.
Always is beaten.
Jaws is always beaten. So
Yeah,
by the
Jaws
end of
is,
the film,
like,
you think,
written for
okay,
laughs.
Bond is gonna win anyway.
What is he gonna do?
Yeah, and in Goldfinger, you really think at the end, the fight in Fort Knox, how the hell's Bond's gonna win from him?
And also, Oddjob is having as much fun as Goldfinger.
As well, yeah, I was gonna say, he's
He's a happy fan.
Yeah.
There's one moment in the entire movie where Oddjob isn't smiling at Bond. Like, there's one moment where you see he's doubting whether he's going to win, and it's at the end when Bond,
Yeah,
Bond has the
Bond
hat.
hits him
when
in the
Bond
face.
when Bond has the hat.
Yeah, true.
In the end.
Oh, I was
And
gonna say like this 2 seconds before that, like Bond hits him in the face, he just keeps smiling. The second time, he just immediately looks so pissed off. You're like, okay, the one time I can get it. Second time, he just immediately shifts from being this happy guy to completely enraged.
And I like the fact that a henchman has his own cue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the little theme.
Yeah.
And his own bucket of paint.
That's a shitty job.
Can you imagine just like in the cupboard somewhere, just a pot labeled Oddjob?
But think about it, it's the weirdest death ever. And also, how did she die that quickly?
Here, Jill, hold my pencil. I need to get a drink.
Just gonna paint you.
And he's a very decent painter. He doesn't spill or anything. It's just he did a good job. Lie still, please, Jill. Don't move. You gotta get paint on the bed.
I'm just, how hard has he hit Bond for him being unconscious, for him to be able to like strangle someone?
Now, is
or
it true
something?
that Connery was actually almost knocked out?
That's
or
true.
That he didn't hold his punch or anything?
He's still feeling it.
No, but I read it somewhere. Or Connery said it in some kind of documentary.
He
That
didn't learn to hold his punch.
No, and that he really
Sakata
knocked
was
out.
actually a wrestler, wasn't he? So
Tosh Togo.
Yeah, that's his nickname,
Yeah.
right? It's even in the credits.
It's in the
I'm like,
credits.
Who's that?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most famous image of the Bond franchise. You see a golden girl.
one of them, yeah.
It's even one of the
Definitely.
Funko Pops, the golden girl.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, the only female.
But it's also, I said earlier, fun is a word for me that I link with Goldfinger, but the other one is iconic. There are so many iconic shots or elements in this film, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
There are several scenes in this movie that could be qualified as the most famous scene in the Bond franchise. And there are
Exactly.
like 7 or 8 in this movie alone. And
Yeah.
it really is the...
Now, there's only one thing wrong with that shot of her laying on the bed.
The pillow.
That's the pillow. It's nice and proper. Yeah.
And the fact that she's lying on her stomach and not on her back.
And I like it that when Bond calls Felix, he's like, Dink?
Dink was just that was 20 minutes ago, man.
Come on.
Keep off.
Anyway, we cut back to London, which I thought, is it the same image they use in the other ones as well? The shot of House of Parliament?
Establishing shot.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful
I don't.
shot.
Yeah, I'm not sure because
I thought it was from Much with Love as well.
The camera moves down here,
Yeah.
and I don't think that they used in previous films. But I like the score that you hear underneath this shot, and it also lingers on a bit during the M and
Is that on your playlist? Are you gonna search it and download it?
It's on the extended edition, I think.
Again, I'd like to have it.
I'm gonna send it to you.
I'm probably going to punch another ticket out of this podcast by saying that I don't listen to the soundtracks by themselves. But I did for this podcast just to
Thank you.
Thank you. What do you mean you don't listen to the soundtracks by themselves?
I don't actually listen
to
soundtracks to listen to. When I'm listening to music, there's never a moment that I think, let's pop on the Thunderball soundtrack.
Really?
Not when you're in the car or
No.
What is wrong with you?
It's background music.
Oh no, I don't say. Oh no, okay.
Like I said, I'm probably
This is something my girlfriend would say. Why are you listening to Bond soundtrack? It's background music. It is not background music.
Yes,
Tyler.
And we said there's still a possibility we will continue on with 3 numbers.
Yes. But for this podcast, the things I do for England and such, I listened to the soundtrack by itself, and it is probably one of the best, and especially because the theme of the music and the cues of the theme song are interwoven in the entire soundtrack. And
thank you, Tyler. That's really appreciated.
but I'm not going to on my way back to home. I'm not going to listen to it again. No.
I'm gonna pick a new film so you can listen to a new soundtrack.
Yes, I will
Eventually.
for scientific sake.
Purposes,
For science sake.
So just because I'm a bit stunned here, you never listen to a Bond soundtrack.
No, that's not true. Because this is not going to help my cause. Because the first soundtrack that I got on CD was the GoldenEye soundtrack.
I knew you were going to say this.
Yeah, well, that's the starting point.
I
Never mind.
I listened to that quite often, somewhere in 1995, 1996. And 1997, and of course the title songs. I do listen to those compilation albums, but the entire soundtrack, no.
Yes, the entire soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm more keen to listening to soundtracks than to compilation albums. So, some of them, yeah.
It's fine. We appreciate your input. We're glad that you like the soundtrack.
I can say that I can like every soundtrack that has some tracks that I skip, but Goldfinger is probably one of them with the most the highest number of iconic.
Very playable
and stuff. Yeah.
This is another public service announcement. Microphone 4 will be disabled for the rest of this podcast.
Absolutely.
No. We're gonna move to the M scene,
but you do need to give me a moment to
you can still recover.
From this remark. Basically, on a weekly basis, I'm listening to a Bond soundtrack at home, and the rest of the family needs to accept it. So,
are you okay there, Anthony? You want me to get more passion juice?
No, it's okay.
He's entirely dissatisfied, but
it's okay. Let's continue.
So we're back in London. Bond comes in and is being disciplined by M for being careless.
I like that.
A very good old-fashioned M Bond scene with him actually respecting his bosses.
This M scene is everything that the M scene in Spectre wasn't.
Should have been,
because. Even though Bond doesn't like it, he takes it. He just takes the beating.
But I do like the fact that he says,
"If I knew what it was about."
Yes,
and there's a certain undertone. I'm aware of my shortcomings. That's also a bit.
Yeah, it's like almost a don't lecture me, but in a very nice way.
But it's much better than Inspector.
And also his face when M says, "Not borrow his girlfriend."
I like that line. Yeah.
Do you think it happened to M as well? That M came home and that Mrs. M and Bond were like...
That's not good.
I always imagine Bernard Lee as M as being a bachelor, like in the novels. M is a bachelor as well.
With his butterfly collection.
I'm not going to start this discussion on the podcast, but I always assumed M was gay.
Gay?
In the novels.
Right.
You mean in the Fleming novel? Yeah. I always assumed he was a bachelor.
I have no fucking idea.
And it's not like I've given it a lot of thought, but there's a line in The Man with the Golden Gun where it's like M is reading the dossier of Scaramanga.
Right,
like,
and he can't whistle because
gay
probably he's a
man
homosexual.
can't whistle, and he's like, see, that's shit.
Okay.
But we'll still listen to it.
Whatever. Okay.
Anyway, we go back to another lovely little Moneypenny scene with the dinner invitation, and then Bond saying, "Moneypenny, won't you ever believe?" That's one of my favorite Bond Moneypenny ones. Like he knows himself, it's full of shit, but just keeping up the appearance.
And like the line just before that when she's asked, "Who is she?" And then M cuts
She
it.
is me,
Yeah.
Miss Moneypenny, and I don't want him to be late.
It's a brief scene, but it's
also
does what it needs to do.
Blink your eyes, Ian.
Yeah, but it's just Lois Maxwell. It's just such a joy to watch. She's just cut for the job. It's just great. Moving on to another scene, we are summoned to dinner with the Governor of the Bank of England, Colonel Smithers, and M. And this is one of my top bits because the dialogue is great and the set itself is wonderful.
Yes,
it's
agreed.
amazing.
Fantastic.
Terrific set.
And you get a massive info dump on Gold.
Yeah, but it's done in a very, like you're almost like you're the fourth guest at the table. I really like how it's done.
I think what is done correctly with, you said the massive info dump, but at the same time there's something else happening.
Yeah, with the brandy.
With the brandy.
Yeah.
So you're listening to the info,
Yeah.
but at the same time you're seeing something else happening over
It's
there.
probably one of those lines that everyone can quote. It's there's such a nice little scene, and I also like that right after he says it, like M picks up the brandy and he sniffs it himself as well, like, just to check.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't like Bond giving the lecture, but he does know that Bond really knows what he's talking about. It's great.
And I like how Smithers, he picks out a cigar and then he hands it back to his servant who sniffs
then
the tip
cuts it,
and then gives it back to him again. It's like, wow, you are really lazy, man. Really.
But just everything about this scene is just delightful. I mean, the way how M looks with the glass in one hand and the big fat cigar in the other is, for me, just one of those iconic moments of
Everything is amazing in this scene.
What is it?
A notched lapel dinner jacket, Martin. Really?
I don't have any objections to it.
Okay.
Nah.
I prefer the shawl collar, but
I like to calculate.
here we go.
Bond is given a gold bar that is worth
5,000
£5,000. Do you know how much that is in current money? 2019 pounds.
I haven't got a clue.
That's probably, let's see.
A lot more.
Probably 150,000 euros, something like that.
£100,000.
Yeah.
There you go. £100,000.
Not too shabby.
Do you know what it weighs, a gold bar like that? Because you can just put it in your pocket and
A lot.
throw it on the green. Yep. It's 12.5 kilos.
Yeah.
That's 438.9 ounces. That's very heavy. It's not something you
Quite
just carry
heavy
around
indeed,
with.
yeah.
But these are the things, because of this podcast, I look at those scenes and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to pause it, grab my phone, Google, and I love to check these things out. Like, how does this work? It's just,
because and the funny thing is, I always wondered about things like this, and I never actually took the time to look it up. But I'm so glad that you did, because these are questions that I have myself as well. Like, but where did he put that? In those golfing pants? Where did he put that gold bar?
I just casually drop it on there. I'm afraid even James Bond can't do that.
And there was someone with a nail clipper clipping every straw of grass separately on that green, and Bond just throws a gold brick on there, like bonk. But we'll get to the gold scene probably.
Right, like as you said about the whole info dump, Midas explains to Bond that gold prices vary across the world and smugglers profit by buying in one and selling in another country. Bond is tasked to find out how Goldfinger is getting his gold out of the country. To help in this mission, Bond is given a bar of gold from a Nazi treasure worth £5,000. Can I just say, I love in this scene how Bond is very eager to get it, and I don't know what he wants to do with it at like 9 p.m. And then, and then you can touch it if you want. You can touch it if you want. And then M is with a very good.
Never mind. Sorry about this.
We'll that out.
Going around town. You want to touch my gold brick?
And there goes our very mature rating for this podcast series.
It's a lighter film, so it's okay.
Yeah, so M, to his great delight, tells Bond he can pick it up in the morning with the rest of his stuff at Q Branch. Then cut to the very first background gadget scene featuring a cup milk truck. We do see that in the main titles.
Yeah.
I've no idea what we're going to do with that one, but I like to think that it's like the milk float in Living Daylights is a nod to this one, or is that just me?
Could be.
I think it's just you, but it was like a van filled with radio things and spies and umbrellas and I don't know, but
Gadget truck.
there was at the Designing 007 exhibition there was the schematics of that were there.
I glossed over
It
that.
was really an elaborate piece of equipment, but they just cut it because it was probably it
too much
added 5
time.
seconds or something.
This is the perfect Q scene, I think.
Yeah, it is, I think. Yeah, just some stuff going on in the background, the parking meter with the gas. And then, I love the changing of the Q character, because Desmond Llewellyn said, like the first one he was like there waiting for 007. He's like, but this is 007. And then Guy Hamilton came up to him like, no, you're supposed to not like him because he breaks all of your stuff. And like the sarcastic undertone of how Q greets Bond with like, oh God, it's him again. It's just perfect.
I actually read the Desmond Llewellyn autobiography recently, and I when I came to this part, I thought, oh, we're gonna record Goldfinger soon. Let me just read a bit of it. It's really nice because it was in fact Guy Hamilton that changed the character of Q, and he said, no, don't take any notice of him. This man annoys you. He's irritatingly flippant and doesn't treat your gadgets with respect. Deep down, you may envy his charm with women, but remember, you're the teacher, and on no account should you stand up when he appears. And that's pretty much Q.
Yeah.
Remember what I said during our The World Is Not Enough podcast? The Q scenes are funny, but Q himself is very serious,
exactly.
and that makes it funny. Wow, that's to a T in this.
Just the morning 007, he's like, oh God, here we go.
Here we go again.
Like he can already see his stuff coming back in very small packages.
And Bond doesn't like it either. Bond is bored out of his mind.
I like when Q says, if I can have another hour of your undivided attention, and it looks like, oh my God.
Better reaction than in Die Another Day when he throws the manual up.
Yeah. But you just said, Tyler, that Q should be a serious character. I agree with you, but for Skyfall and Spectre, they did somehow decided to go the other way because the new Q, the younger Q, is a funny character.
Yeah, but Bond isn't anymore.
They changed rules.
Okay, yeah.
Well, not as much as he was.
But there is a difference, I think, between being funny, as Ben Whishaw is as the new Q, and being ridiculous, like
being
John
like
Cleese in
Yeah.
The World's Not Enough.
The new Q is not really funny. He's more cute or young.
But he has a bit of sarcastic humor, I think.
Yeah.
With his remarks about his cats. And
I was gonna say, he's a bit old,
Afraid to
which makes him
fly.
funny.
He's
Yeah.
afraid to fly, and all of a sudden he's in Austria in this next movie. But
Took the train.
let's
Could
go.
be done. What about Desmond's massive hands, though? They're huge.
I was never aware of this until I started listening to James Bonding, and I'm still actually not looking out for his hands, but
I really noticed.
The poor tiny Homer. It's
It looked like a really small thing in his hands.
He's tall, though. I mean, Desmond Llewellyn, he is quite tall. He's taller than Sean Connery.
And Sean Connery is already a tall guy.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe that's why he has massive hands.
Right.
Not sausage fingers.
And I think this is the moment we should give Martin time and space to talk about
I
a
was going to
certain
say,
car.
it's Bond asks where his Bentley is. We're told it's had his day, and it is going to be replaced by the most glorious cast member ever to grace the screen of a Bond film.
Smithers?
Is he here already?
okay.
No, it's just, you guys have heard of Cinema Sins probably on YouTube, where they make like sarcastic, jokingly films.
Great funny videos.
Yeah, and even though it's not product placement as such, because I'll get into that in a second, but he actually says with this one, every time there's obvious product placement like the Skyfall Amiga, they give it a sin. And this one he says, Aston Martin absolved the product placement sin with the sexiest car ever. And even though it's not product placement, because they didn't like get it in exchange for money or whatever, I still think there's no car that speaks more to the imagination and fits Bond more than the DB5 in this case.
And everyone worth his salt had one in the 60s because Paul McCartney bought one. and the producer of the Rolling Stones bought one, and Keith Richards bought one as well. And everybody was like, I want to have this car.
I want to have this car.
Everybody wants
You
to
already
have
have
a
the T-shirt.
I have a Lego version of it,
Which isn't too
a
shabby
tiny
either.
quirky version of it, but
That's the closest you'll get to having
Yeah,
an
well,
Aston
there
Martin.
you go.
One on eight. It makes noises and it has lights, and that's about it. Well, my current car is a coupe and it's silver, but that's where the similarities end, unfortunately. So a small little side note. I don't know if you guys know this specific registration, like Aston Martin has been with Roger Moore as well. Because it used to be Aston Martin's promotional car for the DB5, and then for one episode in The Saint, I think like a year before, they needed some rich guy to drive up to a mansion, and you see like dark red DB5 with this registration driving around. So it's quite funny, and they were very reluctant to give the Bond producers an Aston Martin. And they were like, well, you can just have this one because it's old and it's done a couple of miles, and if you really have to have one, then all right, you can have this one.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to cut its roof off.
Yeah. It was a special effect. It was John Sears, right?
John Sears.
John Sears, yeah. And he said he saw the car. He's like, you have this beautiful thing. He just went inside. He had a drink, and then just got a saw and it just cut a bit out of the roof. He's like, I just had to get it over with. And
That's like ripping off a Band-Aid, right? Let's get it over with.
Do
it quickly.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, done a little bit of research on what that car costs. To give you an example, like in that kind of money, you can, for the same price of an Aston Martin DB5, you can either buy 3-bedroom house or 13 Volkswagen Beetles. So, you're just being told, just cut a hole in it and, just take everything apart.
But how many Nazi gold bars of 12.5 kilo can you buy for one of those cars?
let me get my calculator.
As a matter of fact, Don has done his calculations. He knows.
I have a trivia question. Everyone has a pen and some paper. The question is, name all the gadgets, both seen and unseen, present in the DB5. You have 20 seconds for that one. I never joke about my cars, 007. Right, time's up. I've got the total number of gadgets here, and every gadget specified. There's a 3 points for whoever gets the most, and there's a bonus point if you can get all the license plates, so everyone at least has one gadget. Who has the highest number? Anthony?
I've got 8 gadgets.
Tyler?
I've got 7, but I forgot about the license plate.
And you have 3 license plates. Front and back.
Times 6.
You got 2 machine guns.
And you have the registration in the glove compartment, so that's 6 as well. Yeah.
There's 32 gadgets. No. Don, many do you have?
Depends on how you count them. I think 9, but I'm not sure. Might be 8, depends on how you count them.
The total number is 12, actually. But,
but
Anthony,
I had 75. Aren't we going to check which ones we have?
Okay.
Right, so Anthony, you have 9, so let's see which ones you have.
All right, there we go. Machine guns.
Yep.
Smoke. I just wrote down smoke.
Yeah.
Bulletproof shields.
Yes.
The oil.
Yep.
The ejector seat.
Of course.
The GPS Homer device.
Mm-hmm.
The rotating number plates.
Yeah.
And the last one, 6 beverage cup holders. you don't have that one on your list, do you?
No, I don't.
So actually it's 13.
It's 13, yeah.
Fully stocked.
Fully stocked.
So no, I actually have 8, but I'm cheating.
Right. The other ones we have are the tire. The tire spikes.
Yeah.
One. So that's one for you.
Tire slashers,
Anything
yes.
else? Yeah.
And the windscreen is bulletproof itself.
Yeah.
Plus the side and the rear windows.
Yeah, well, bulletproof windows.
Okay,
So.
that's why it depends on
Yeah.
how you count them. What else? Smoke, oil, rear bulletproof screen, front one machine gun, sat nav, the Homer itself. Did you count that?
I mentioned it already.
That's right, yeah.
The revolving number plates. Yeah.
And front and rear overriders bumper thingies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see them. You see them on the promotional cars, but not in the movie itself.
Yeah.
There's a weapons tray under the driver's seat, and there's a telephone hidden in the door armrest.
Yeah, my Lego one has that. Yeah. It has the phone.
I've got the 1 on 8 model as well, and that one has them both as well. Yeah. There have also been some talk of the car actually having like the tire spikes and like the tripod things to
on the back.
throw
But
out
they
the
didn't
back.
use them.
Yeah, but I've never seen any evidence that it's actually true.
Ken Adam drew them.
Yeah,
So we all have 24 points.
No,
Yeah.
I've got 6.
The license plates. You want the license plates?
Yeah.
They're on my keychain. So
Yeah.
that's always used.
So the first one, the main one.
What I like is that he says valid in all countries, and I
It's only
just
3,
got
yeah.
that because it's valid in all the countries that you will be driving through on your way to Switzerland.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense because it has like the GB thing on the back, so it.
Well, maybe this sticker can become invincible. Or something.
Invisible stickers.
Gadget number 14.
Yeah, it's,
So anyway.
For anyone that wants to know Martin's Wi-Fi passwords, it's BMT216A.
That works.
And that's the British one, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the French one, which is 4711EA62, which isn't a gaming company.
Not yet.
Nope.
And the Swiss one, LV6789.
LU.
LU, yeah, Lu,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. I can't read my own handwriting.
So that's an extra point for you, but no one actually got all of them, so you now have 2 points. And, well, let me just be generous and give Anthony a point as well. Because you got 8 out of 12, and I think that's quite a...
6 beverage.
All right, sorry, that's 6 extra point for
Wait
you.
a second. So, all right.
You
You asked me.
Tyler, you don't get any points because you don't listen to the Bond soundtracks.
We are all tied. We're all tied with the 24 points.
That's 24 points, sure. After some more exposition about the tracking devices, the smaller one can be placed in Bond's shoe, assuming he always wears the exact same pair of shoes everywhere he goes. Bond arranges to meet Goldfinger at his Stoke Poges Country Club in Kent.
Which, by the way, he's wearing brown suede derby shoes when he's in Switzerland, and he wears his black Oxfords that actually fit the Homer in the heel. So he isn't even wearing the same type of shoes in this movie when he is driving his Aston Martin.
Continuity girl, where were you?
Yeah.
Pay attention.
And there'll be some more of that in this film.
And I do
But
like
alas,
the fact that he just drops the small Homer on the large Homer and says it's magnetic.
Yeah, no,
that's
it just falls.
gravity.
We are like reintroduced to the character of Goldfinger, who apparently doesn't recognize or doesn't seem to recognize Bond from his voice.
How would he?
Yes.
From his voice.
Just the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you
says
going
hello.
to say that Sean Connery doesn't have an iconic voice?
Well, it's been weeks, probably.
No, but he does know that that's the same guy because later on he says.
Yeah, I was going to say
that-
he appears to.
Yeah, it's the second time we.
It's thin, though, here in the book. It's pretty thin.
In the movie.
In the book, you know that they
Yeah.
know each other.
Yeah.
They are properly introduced to each other. They meet each other. They talk to each other.
Here they're like keeping up appearances.
Yeah, and they even make arrangements on how Bond wants to leave Miami, and he has to book him a train ticket and everything. No, it's not Mr. Bomb, it's Mr. Bond. And so they make sure that they know each other.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
he consciously goes to the golf club because Goldfinger mentions to him that he frequently golfs there.
Yeah.
And he seeks out Goldfinger because his cover story is that he wants to get another job, and maybe Goldfinger has a job for him. So it's much more thorough in the book. Here,
It makes
it's-
more sense as well.
It's kind of left in the middle. Like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, let's see how it goes. But about Stoke Poges, I stood there. I stood there on the 18th hole. That's such a wonderful, iconic, image set.
It's a
Absolutely
wonderful
perfect.
building as well. It's very elegant, very very high class.
This is really high class British.
aristocracy.
Yeah, and it's quite. When I was there January, so that's a few months ago now, and it makes such an impression on you. It's like you're almost afraid of walking through the hallways there, of touching anything.
But is that also because of the Bond connection, or just like the
Yeah,
the
but
thing
even
itself?
without the Bond connection, because everything is so high class and so nice and expensive and everything. And I was a bit early. I was there with my son, and we had a high tea arranged at 2 or something
By
with a
Ocho.
whole group of Bond people. And we were a bit early. The location scouting in the morning went quicker than we anticipated. And we were there. It was freezing. It was very cold. So we walked in, went to a reception, and said, could we wait? Please wait inside. We're a bit early. And we're massive James Bond fans. And we have a high tea here. And they said, oh, then you should look at our Goldfinger hallway. And they took us down through the building. We got a tour through the building. And all the way in the cellar or something, they have a special Goldfinger hallway with pictures and screenshots and
Nice.
pages from the screenplay and everything dedicated to Goldfinger. And a tiny bit of Tomorrow Never Dies, because they also shot a scene of Tomorrow Never Dies there. And it's so amazing to be there. And then after the high tea, just very briefly, after the high tea, we went out. We had to go back to Heathrow. We were quite a bit in a hurry, but we wanted to go to the 18th hole because that's where they shot the final scene there. And it was raining and everything, so it wasn't as nice as in the film, but we were standing there next to the hole.
Yeah.
And while we were filming there, you can see it in the video that we made, other golfers were actually looking at us because they wanted to play the hole. And they were like, what are those two people doing there on the green with the camera? They were not too happy. Yeah, not too happy. But we asked, just thinking back about it, it's, that's classic. Yeah.
I really want to go there sometime. It's like right next door, well, relatively next
close
door.
To the silos.
Yeah.
Did they repair the statue in the meantime?
The statue's not there.
No, I know.
Yeah, it was never there.
No.
They have statues like that there.
Goldfinger is found cheating by using another identical golf ball after he hits it in the rough, which is very not subtly being dropped by Oddjob.
Yeah, but explain me one thing. So Bond and his caddy and Oddjob and Goldfinger are walking around the rough trying to find the ball. Right?
Right.
In the novel, they can't find the ball because Bond's caddy walked up ahead and put his bag on the ball.
Yeah, to help Bond.
To help Bond. But in the movie, all four of the characters are walking around looking for the ball, and they can't find it. And then at the end, when Oddjob has dropped the ball, Bond's caddy says, well, if that's his original ball, I'm on Palmer. And Bond says, no, it's not, because I'm standing on it.
So all of a sudden he has found it.
So all of a sudden he has been standing on it the entire time?
No, just now.
Just
now. So why
found it.
why didn't the other people find it first?
Because they didn't find it.
Because the script said they had to drop another one.
Because the
and
grass
not
was
find
quite
it.
high
But
over there.
it makes no sense. I mean,
It's
it
more of a coincidence now.
It makes more sense in the book.
a lot more sense. Yeah.
But what I do think is quite nice is that they cut the first 16 holes from the book. Because that chapter is long.
But in the novel, you have the Goldfinger was dressed the way he thinks
Golfers dress.
Yeah, like he went to a tailor and said, "Dress me like I'm about to play golf."
But I looked this up on, I don't know if it's the Bond suits or what else. What are the websites you have on the clothing of Bond? It's
It's a sartorial Bond
mostly
stuff,
the suits of James Bond.
yeah, because I don't know this, but Sean Connery was dressed in a very modern golf outfit for the time, and Gerd Fröbe was dressed in a very traditional, old-fashioned way.
With the plus fours and the...
To make a difference again between what kind of golfer or person he is. I would not have picked up on that if I didn't read that. I would just take
No,
it for
I
granted,
like,
the way they
yeah.
look, but-
I was just like, I noticed the fact that it's gold or yellow colored again, but I wouldn't have read into it, no. Bond teases Goldfinger with the golden Nazi bar, which, like, with your calculation, I think it's quite a high, staking 100,000 pounds.
They should only play for 1 shilling a hole. I have no idea what that
Shilling
was
is,
or is,
no.
but that nowadays is like £2 or €2.
£2 a
and
hole,
all
all of a sudden it's
and all
100,000. And Goldfinger said, yeah, sure, look, no, I'll just put in the equivalent in money. You're like, yeah, sure, no, I'm perfectly fine with...
But I like is the look on the face of Goldfinger when the bar is dropped to the ground. You see that he is
the fact that he puts, it can't put, like, he's so obsessed with gold.
Yeah, that you can see the obsession that Shirley Bassey was singing about. You can see it in his eyes.
Just that twinkle.
And he wants to have it. He already has a lot of gold, and he's rich, but he wants to have it.
Listen, he knows everything about it, where it's made, when it's from, what year, and why and how.
It's divine heaviness.
Bond, using the ball you found, sir, one-ups Goldfinger by switching his golf ball, the Schlesinger 7, with the Schlesinger 1, or was it the other way around?
Goldfinger plays with the number 1.
Yeah, he plays with the 1, so he switches the 1 for a 7. And enforcing these strict golf rules, which I have no clue about, but apparently this is something that you can do.
You can't play the wrong
game.
ball. So you lose the hole if you play the wrong ball.
And the match.
What I really like is that Goldfinger is very pissed at
He
the
just
end.
throws it
and
down.
and Oddjob just stands there and smiles.
Goldfinger looks at him like, bloody idiot, did you drop the wrong ball?
Something like that.
And Oddjob just smiles because
no idea what's going on.
And Bond feigns the innocence so well. Yeah, you probably played the wrong ball somewhere on the 18th fairway. Well, I don't know.
Here's my pinfall, huh?
And again, here in the book, Goldfinger becomes mad at Bond because he accuses him of being a cheat.
Yeah.
And then Bond quickly, or his caddy, Bond's caddy to be a cheat. And then Bond quickly comes to the rescue saying, I think it's always the responsibility of the player to check that he's playing the right ball. That you think. And what I really like is that Bond always manages to get underneath Goldfinger's skin and annoy him. And Goldfinger always has that little amount of doubt. What is Bond doing? Is he straight? Is he?
Yeah, he can't put his finger on it, but he just knows something's off about Bond.
Man.
Yeah,
I like that.
I was gonna say, I always like, having seen them together, I always sort of link Goldfinger with Metz from Diamonds Are Forever. You irritating man. No, that's maybe, the sort of the look he gives him. It's.
I remember also from Some Kind of Hero that Richard Maybaum made a big distinction between the first 3 films. He said that the first one, Dr. No, it was mostly pretty straightforward, and it was like an investigation. The second one was like a spy thriller.
More of a mystery, maybe?
Yeah. And the third one, he considered it to be a duel between 2 titans. Bond versus Goldfinger. It's not really about the caper. It's not about the robbery. It's a duel between 2 men who are equally good at what they do, and who. It's like a game of chicken. You know, it's like who will.
Sort of a blinking contest. Yeah.
In contrast to Dr. No, where you don't see the villain up until more than an hour.
And here you see him constantly.
Yeah, but also from
many times.
From
that's
5 to
why
6
I like
minutes.
that small line that's in the book. It's like once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, third time it's enemy action.
Yeah.
Like that,
Back to the film itself, Goldfinger, as we just pointed out, he knows something is up with Bond and warns him to not interfere in his affairs, demonstrating his seriousness by ordering another iconic scene, which is Oddjob decapitating a statue with his bowler hat. Oh, nothing, Mr. Bond. I own the club.
I like that response.
That's great,
remarkable.
Yeah.
What does the club secretary has to say about it?
And then the way he's being cocky.
Yeah, but the way Goldfinger reacts, not just the line, but also the fact that he just rubs his eyes. Oh, nothing, Mr. Bond. I own the club. It's so cool.
Great, yeah.
It wasn't with the golf ball, wasn't it? That was it. Sean Connery or maybe Harold Sakata said that, but that's not possible. And then Guy Hamilton said, but that's the point. That's really good. It's like when they announced Sebastian Faulks being the new author in 2007 or 2008 for his new book, there was a piece online that was written by, what's the host's name of Top Gear? Jeremy Clarkson.
Clarkson, yeah.
Yeah. He wrote an article online saying how inappropriate it was that Sebastian Faulks would write the new book, because a Bond novel is really quite straightforward and easy. You need certain things, certain elements. And then he wrote, and then the henchman comes who demonstrates his strength by eating a billiard table. And that's exactly what happens all the time in the Bond books. Right? This is it. This is crush the golf ball.
I like how Bond's actually a bit taken aback. Like, okay, you really are very strong indeed.
I also like when just moments before the golf ball crunching scene is when Goldfinger is writing out his check, and then he closes the door and Bond steps back.
Just the subtle, like the passive aggressiveness of it is it's great. Yeah. Bond, having placed the Homer in the back of Goldfinger's rather beautiful Rolls Royce, then goes on to check if it's actually working, and we see Goldfinger departing. The noise that'll haunt you in your dreams.
They just have switch the sound off button, the mute button.
Well, I was going to say a bit later on when he's in the car with Tilly, when the screen's off and like it sounds off as well. So I guess Bond should probably just like turn it on.
You can switch it off.
Yeah,
you can mute.
If you like,
if you just choose not to.
No, if you just like if it's on, it's on, and if you just put the screen in front of it, it's off.
Right.
So I'd probably like wedge something in between. But Bond follows Goldfinger to the airport where he sees his car being loaded, and he books himself on the next flight for Geneva. And the following shot is, again, one of them trademark shots with John Barry's iconic music as we enter Switzerland. which is probably one of the scenes I sort of miss in the modern Bond films, just the establishing shot. You know, you go there and then there's just a car driving around in the mountains with the slow music in the background, and then Bond casually following him in the distance. Before one of the, I think, more Fleming-esque things where Jill comes up Tilly comes up in the Mustang, and Bond wants to go.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I've got this sports car, and he's just like, discipline 007, which I think is very much into Bond's character, as we will see in a few films down the road as well.
And again, Tanya Mallet recently passed away. So sad.
Yeah.
All these people.
Yeah, I'm not a great fan of Tanya Mallet.
No?
No, she looks beautiful, but I don't think she's that good of an actress. Matter of fact, I think this firstly the only film she's in.
She was a model.
Mostly.
Yeah,
you see her later on the Vogue magazine.
Yeah.
But that's later on in the film. I don't like the way she acts when Bond.
You know exactly what you're going to say.
When Bond finds her in the night at the factory. Yeah, and she keeps lying like, let me go. But Bond already released her, and she's still lying there like, let me go. It's really bad acting. So,
well,
sorry.
just be grateful she wasn't cast as Tanya Romanova, because she was up for that part.
Okay.
That's where the producers still knew her from.
Okay.
But she was mostly a model,
Yeah, and she looks good.
But it's a strange little scene when they catch up after the shooting. But maybe we'll get to that later. Yeah.
As you said, Goldfinger parks up. Bond mysteriously can spot that from like a mile higher up the mountain and decides to pull up as well.
I'd love to go there. That spot.
Yeah, there have been a few trips there. Well, with the late Tanya Mallet and some people from like Bond Lifestyle and the
Are
Bond
the kids
Experience.
still there selling fruit?
I don't know if they're still kids, but they might be there.
70-year-olds now.
Don't you just love it that
selling
Goldfinger just stops to buy a pear or something and just...
He's hungry. Yeah.
I always pitied Oddjob. I mean, I feel like that high up the mountain, and the car itself is a Lando Lay, so the front bit doesn't have a roof. But he must be like probably frozen to the steering wheel at that point. It's just, I also don't understand why Tilly is driving the car with the top down. Because we went there like high summer, we went into the Swiss mountain going through Italy, and it's absolutely freezing up there, let alone like driving in a fast open car.
Looks
so
better probably.
Yeah.
Well, and it was, as I said before, Ford product placement because the Mustang wasn't out yet. This is actually the very first time the general public saw the car, so... It's, you have to demonstrate. And the car
not
is
a great,
being...
Not a great public, first appearance of a car because it's
Double
got a double tire blow up, and then it's probably a defunction from the factory, something like that, Sean Connery says. So, where to go?
Before you go
Let's
there...
just skim over that.
Yeah, I was just going to know...
Whatever, Anthony.
Whatever.
Doesn't matter what you say.
This is about a car, but I don't agree with it, so let's carry on.
I don't want to skip over the whole Tilly being a lousy shot despite having a separate case for her gun situation.
She's also a terrible liar.
Yeah, well,
for her ice skates. I mean, say a flute or I don't know, something else. But
Bond being very cool, standing there just chilling, and then he's shot, and he takes like a full second before he dives behind his car, and all of us like, why does Oddjob
smile?
Yeah, like what does he
Did he hear the
smile
shot?
again?
Because he always smiles.
But did he hear the shot?
Because he very distantly looks up to that exact same spot where she was standing.
We're being followed.
I don't know why he smiles.
And in the book, it's quite strange because he also has a Homer in the book, but it only has audio. Yeah. So Bond is listening to a beeping sound, and as soon as it starts to fade, he has to figure out that he's on the wrong road. So
which is impossible. It would drive you mad.
Yeah, it would drive you mad. But he's going through all the roads in his head. I might have to go this way. I might have to go that way. It's a crazy chase.
Sound toward Paris, or
So I think it's good that they added the visuals.
The visuals,
it's much more relaxed.
But what I don't get is that after the shooting, Bond decides to leave Goldfinger or abandon his chase.
He probably thinks that
decides to go for her, for Tilly. And then
how did you get behind her though?
Then he manages to get her inside his car and then drops her off at the nearest gas station, and that's it.
Yeah, if he thinks that she was trying to assassinate him,
why leave her there?
Why leave her there and not do anything?
plot hole.
If you assume that she wasn't any danger, why go after
Why
her
bother?
at all?
Why ruin her car and then blame it
but
on
otherwise, he would not recognize her later that night.
Yeah.
So,
And he would have thought that's just a terrible actress lying there.
I'm not holding you, woman. But when she gets
get
out
us
at
a
the gas
man talk
station,
again.
she says "Fraulein." When she gets out, that was a reference to the wife of Harry Saltzman. She was about to make a cameo appearance there. As an assistant to the gas station. And then when Cubby saw that, he said, no, let's cut that out. But you still hear the Fraulein like that.
Have any of you ever been there? Because the gas station was not a gas station anymore, because it's been turned into a hotel. And they had the pumps and the roof for a very long time, but I think it's about to or has already been demolished.
Okay.
Which is a shame, because all of the rest looks very familiar. Well, it's a mountain road, but it's one of those places where really time has stood still. Bond sees that he's been going the wrong way and decides to go back to Goldfinger, where he parks up next to the entrance, and then all of a sudden in 2 minutes he's all the way up on the mountain walking down.
Yeah,
Now,
it's a cut.
If you know that Auric Goldfinger has a headquarters
In Switzerland called Auric Enterprises.
Why do you need to follow him with a sat nav all the way there? Because
He didn't know he was going to
going
his
to Geneva.
headquarters.
Yeah.
That's funny though. It says actually Auric Enterprises AG.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
Or a Goldfinger.
Auric Goldfinger.
No.
No, it's like
It's
LTD, but then in the Swiss version.
Yeah, public limited company.
Yeah.
It is, and it's the word is Aktiengesellschaft or something like that. My German isn't that great, but yeah.
I looked it up a couple of years
shares.
ago because up until a few years ago, I really thought it was Auric Goldfinger. It stood for.
Auric Enterprises. Auric.
Yeah, okay, strange, but whatever.
But yeah, he's up in the mountain all of a sudden.
Yeah, so Bond is up there with his amazing binoculars again to cover that much distance. Sees Oddjob and the Rolls Royce standing outside. And then he goes back to his car, changes, and goes and look at the exact same spot to look at the factory again.
Wait until it's dark.
I'm like, I'm like, why go sit out in the open in the first place and then come back later? What's the point of? Well, I'm the only one who has a problem with that.
Yeah, no, I like the score you hear here.
Yeah. Sneaky Bond.
Yeah. The at night you mean?
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's some pure this film has been accused of people saying Bond not doing much, because it gets captured and all that stuff. But I think he does a lot of snooping and spying, and we haven't seen him done this much investigating in ages, I think.
In fact, the film should end here. The mission was find out how Mr. Goldfinger smuggles his gold from England. Now he knows.
Yeah.
Go back, end of film, done. No.
Yeah, it would have been the same though.
I do have to say it is rather ingenious. I've been thinking about it. Well, apart from the fact that there's probably not a tire in the world that could support the Rolls Royce itself is already like a 1.5 ton or 2 ton car, let alone made from gold. So, but technically, it's a great idea.
Actually, Don had done some calculations, and he knows how much the Rolls Royce weighs, right?
It's in the book.
It's 18 karat gold. The weight is approximately
2 tons in a movie.
2 tons, which is 1,800 kilos. That's what Goldfinger says. He says it to Mr. Ling. Because right at the moment that Bond is standing there wondering if anything is happening, Goldfinger is mansplaining his plan to Mr. Ling.
Yeah. So convenient.
It's very convenient. I like it.
Yeah.
Bond hearing the term of a Grand Slam, which is probably not important at all because it's being very obviously put down here without any context whatsoever.
That's like the worst name for an operation ever. Like if I have
cool.
an evil
Grand
scheme, I'm
Slam.
not gonna name it the biggest plan. My main plan, main strike. Same thing, Operation Main Strike. It's the same thing. Oh well.
I was gonna say
Plan world domination.
Bond overhears Goldfinger talking to physicist Mr. Ling about Grand Slam, and leaving, he encounters Tilly again as she says she tries to kill Mr. Goldfinger.
Which makes no sense at all, because she's lying there, ready to take
Shoot
another
at who?
shoot at who, because Goldfinger is inside and you're in the middle of the forest.
Yeah.
But okay.
She also has the bad luck of lying with her gun exactly
Right underneath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, it's a tripwire. Maybe I should lie here.
It's a safe place.
And Goldfinger also has the fastest henchman in the world. Like, he trips the wire, and like 30 seconds later, they're right behind them, all the way up the mountain.
They look as they just come out of their bed because they're all wearing the pajamas, right?
What happened to color-coded outfits? They all have the same outfit. All the
Maybe they're all the same rank, like the blue.
It's quite sad. It's like no one said,
Belt
could I have a
ones.
green one? No, we don't have green ones. We only have the blue and yellow ones.
They didn't. Did they have it already in Dr. No?
Yeah, Dr. No had color-coded henchmen. Yeah.
But Goldfinger wasn't part of Spectre. Standard operating procedure in Spectre. So.
Oh well.
Here in Switzerland, we stand on equality. Everybody wears the same pajama. Now go out there and kill Bond.
I never got the line, like, well, you're a terrible shot, and then you're like, and someone else isn't. I'm like, well, he is, because someone missed by a mile.
It's actually Oddjob in the book, isn't it? With a bow and arrow that shoots at them.
That would have given him, well, with the hat and the bow and arrow, might have been a bit overkill.
Yeah, it would have been strange.
But by this time, he also ate a cat already in the novel. So
they cut that entire chapter, and I really like that chapter. Whenever we get to the novel Goldfinger, that would be fun.
Anyway,
Car chase.
It's good.
It's good, and the thing I probably like most is the face, like the smile Tilly gives Bond when she's finding out like Bond's got all this shit in his car, and Bond enjoys it as well. Like he's showing off. He's so confident, and so.
You think that's a genuine smile, like in For Your Eyes Only, when
I don't know, could be
Melina's smiling, lovely driving the car.
Like she's looking down, like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then she's like, what are you going to do? What is this?
It probably mimics the smiles of the audience back in 64.
Probably,
when they saw this for the first time.
Yeah. So we have the car chase with the henchman being supplied by the same instantly combustible cars from the same factory as the hearse in Dr. No is. I don't know about you guys, but I've never seen a car like explode while going off a cliff or over.
Never seen a car go off a cliff.
No.
Or explode.
No. Which begs the question, because like later on the car going through the fog hits the tree and it doesn't explode.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Going over a cliff makes it go boom.
Yeah, it's the cliff that does it.
So if you have bulletproof windows, why do you still need a bulletproof screen to go up?
I don't know.
Because it's better protection? Or
I mean, well,
close range?
Because if you leave the car, you can hide behind it.
No, because it only covers the window.
Yeah, but it's bullet-resistant glass. Like it can only take so much because it shadows, I guess, so some extra protection. But I've never quite understood how it worked. Like you have to be stationary for it, and if you have a car with guns on it, it's a stationary thing.
I think this is a very sad scene.
Yeah, she dies. Yeah, he killed both sisters.
Yeah, and both sisters are killed like minutes after they are with Bond.
Yeah,
by the same henchman. So I always thought like...
Does Oddjob have different hats? Like a hat that cuts through statues and a hat that just
snaps a neck,
necks in half. Like, well, today I'm going to have...
He has a set of hats inside his jacket, I think.
I think it's a sad scene, but for Oddjob, this is a very good scene. Because he has demonstrated the hat and now he uses it again. So that like cements his evilness or his competence.
The fact that he kills two ladies makes him it
makes him a very better than Jaws already.
Probably one of the most competent henchmen in the series.
And I always think this scene that Bond gets knocked out, but he isn't.
No.
Because he's so often knocked out, but here he isn't. He's just being brought back to his car. Yeah. And you put one inept guard.
You
just drive your own car.
You just witnessed a man who has bulletproof windows, a bulletproof screen, oil and smoke coming from his car, and you let him drive that same car with a henchman next to it.
That's a right-hand drive.
Why? That's the one thing, like the biggest plot hole for me. Like you just know this guy has a car that can do lots of stuff.
Leave the car, put him in the back.
Just leave it there.
Knock him out.
Yeah, this little oversight does give us one of the funniest scenes in the film, I think, and one of the best gadgets in the entire franchise. Because we have the little grandma opening the gate, giving him one little nod, and he's just like, okay, where is this going? And then all of a sudden, the only thing I don't like about it is the camera angle for the ejector seat. He just floors it and then hits the button, and you just see like this rear image of the car in the background, somewhere far away. And I think they did it a bit better in Spectre.
Yeah.
Now I think it's been demonstrated by Q, and then you see Bond flipping the switch. There's like this big build up, and there's just this one little shot. Like it's not.
But
a
here you
big
can
deal,
actually
but it
see
is.
it. You don't see it, Inspector. Bond disappears out of
or
sight.
Out
Out
of
of
frame.
the-
Yeah, you can just see him
And
go
here
out
you
of
actually
frame.
see the car flying out of the car. I really like that. I really like that old little lady, though. She's so lovely. What do you think she was doing inside her little house? Was she
Peeling
cooking?
potatoes.
She was cooking.
I was gonna say she was
I was
cooking.
wondering
Yeah.
about that. And she does a little curtsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
And Bond
curtsy.
is sitting in the car looking like, what the fuck is she doing here?
Are we going to have potatoes for dinner tonight? Oh no.
It's so great. It's so
And then like Bond, like everything goes to shit. There's a lot of bad guys at like 2 feet in front of his car who can't shoot him, even though it's a very low car and half of the roof is missing.
But
And
when
then the
he
lady comes out with the machine gun. And she's like almost blown away by her own gun.
run her over. Just drive on.
He is stunned as we are when
like,
we
what?
first see the
Maybe
film.
I was laughing.
Is it the same lady?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the most tense scenes in like a car chase, but in between the Pinewood Studios, the very like feeling of Bond being hunted. Even though he has the car and the music that swells up, when you see the headlights coming.
It was very. I remember not really understanding what was going on the very first time I saw that.
Yeah, it's
No,
very
me neither.
dazzling, and I love some of the shots they also use in the trailer. Where like the camera goes around the corner right in front of the car, and it makes it all look so very fast and very small and very. I just love the editing in this scene. Yeah. Only thing I don't love is Bond's idea of just shooting a gun at a wall, then decided to drive your car into a wall, but that's me.
Yeah.
He didn't know what to do else. So yeah.
That's what he did. Oddjob likes it.
I'll just smiles again.
He likes everything.
But yeah, then he's unconscious.
And then we're off to another iconic scene.
Yeah.
The laser.
Mark.
Is this one of the best Bond being captured scenes?
Yeah, probably. Because
think
I
it's,
like the dialogue. I like the fact that Bond really looks hopeless. He doesn't know what to do or to say anymore.
How does Goldfinger know he is 007?
One of his opposite numbers.
Someone
recognized.
talked. That's it.
Maybe Mr.
Probably,
Ling.
yeah, probably
Mr. Ling has contacts.
Yeah, something
It's
like
the
that.
Chinese, even in the 60s.
Okay, yeah. But he's happy. Goldfinger is very happy.
Yeah, he's
And
very
he's
content.
super relaxed.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
really nonchalant. He's
Very content.
Look at my industrial laser. It could project a
It's
spot on the moon.
Yeah, because we've said it before, but the dubbing work is excellent. It
And the
really
sound
fits.
effects. I mean, what does a
Yeah, as
laser
well,
sound
yeah.
like? First you
Yeah.
have the...
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
an
no
Oscar for
idea,
that.
no idea what a laser sounds like. But if I would come up with something, it's probably this. Yeah.
Oh, here you have the divine heaviness and the sublime. What
All
is it?
my
It's
life.
color, it's brilliance. Yeah. This is a very quotable scene. Yeah.
It's even in the Moby remix. The No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And I like the choose your next witticism carefully.
He beat you a lot.
Oh, well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the laser is slowly. That was all effects, right? The laser wasn't there. It was someone with a blowtorch.
With a blowtorch, yeah. So you
underneath
can
the-
understand Sean's
And he
panic.
didn't know exactly where he
Where
should
to
stop.
stop.
So,
Shit, imagine lying there.
But it's supposed to be a gold slab, right? But it's just wood painted gold
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I never figured that out. It doesn't look like gold.
It looks very
No,
good.
you only know it because he says so.
Yeah. But I like that Bond makes Goldfinger doubt.
With the Grand Slam comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
Can
the
you
end.
really
Yeah.
afford to take their chance? How do you get out? I mean,
That's
and still, it doesn't make sense that Goldfinger let him live. If you rationalize it, why would he let him live? You're more worth to be alive. Why?
No, but it appears to be Mr. Ling who convinces Goldfinger
Yeah,
to let him live.
he seems to be.
He's like, no.
Yeah, fine.
But how does he know
maybe-
Operation
Grand
Grand
Slam.
Slam? How does he know it? We
Yeah.
need to find out.
Yeah.
That's why he lets him live.
Probably let it check to
Because
see if
he's
Bond
the
actually knows something.
paymaster or something. He's
Yeah.
Yeah, he supplies
Finance,
the bomb.
yeah.
Finance the operation as well.
And in the book, it was Smirsh.
It's always Smirsh.
Yeah.
I like that in the book. We're gonna talk about the book.
Yeah, because the Soviets are sending a submarine on which he's going to carry out all the gold
Yeah.
back to Russia.
And during the chase through Switzerland, he also dumps one of his
Yeah.
gold bars, and Bond finds it.
Yeah.
And I really like that subcontext, but they cut it out here. But, oh well.
Yeah, it's really the paymaster.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have the shot of Bond being tranquilized by a gun that doesn't shoot anything, just a noise. And then we open up to another one of those very iconic scenes.
Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming. It's another one of those throwaway lines that it's just like, I use it more than I should. Whenever you see something that you can't believe, especially with like fellow Bond people who are in the inner circle of Bond, so to say.
And instantly, Bond turns on the charm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like he's just been tranquilized. I don't know if you guys ever been like
Tranquilized? No, not
No,
often.
if you've ever been, like
In a plane.
have you ever
Slipped
been in a
a
plane?
few
Yeah.
roofies. Yeah.
No, but if you ever been, like in hospital, you had to have surgery. They drug you to make you unconscious, and you wake up. It's already just a bit slowly, a bit dizzy, and here just instantly, oh, hello, that's a pretty lady. Let's go.
We're no secret agents, huh?
Bond is informed that he's on Goldfinger's private jet on the way to Kentucky. Bond is then let off the plane after trying the charm on Pussy Galore, who is sadly immune. Bond, after discovering that his charms doesn't work on Pussy because she's immune, he asks to at least change his clothes before he meets Mr. Goldfinger.
She's probably a lesbian.
Not for long, not for long.
All right, I
then
did some more
ask-
calculations. You want to know them?
Yeah,
I
sure.
think these are
Let's
my
go.
final calculations. So
Okay.
The distance?
there's a clock on the plane for some reason, and it's 5 minutes past 10. And it has to be in the morning, otherwise the rest of the scene doesn't make any sense. Because they're supposed to be above Newfoundland, which is an island off the coast of Canada, or part of Canada. My geography is not that great, but I had to look it up. And then at 2:45 p.m. in the afternoon, Pussy says that they'll be landing in 55 minutes, which will make it 3:40 p.m. in the afternoon. So it is from Newfoundland to Kentucky. It's 1,640 miles, or 2,640 kilometers, which means that they are flying 300 miles per hour, or 480 kilometers per hour. But what's the plane? A Lockheed Jetstar?
Jetstar, yeah.
That can go twice as fast. So they're really taking it slow. They're just enjoying
the first
flight.
time, isn't it? Like usually it's the other way around. They cover like 2,000 kilometers in
They
5
have all
minutes.
the time in the
Yeah.
world. Maybe they have to make a few extra stops. or
Probably.
anything. But what I really do like is the extra effort that Continuity Girl put into this scene. Because when Pussy announces that they'll be landing in 55 minutes, and later Bond gets out of the bathroom and she says we'll be landing in 20 minutes, the clock makes sense.
Really?
It's exactly
wow.
right.
Hooray for the Continuity
Yeah, it's
Girl.
really wonderful.
Applaud, yeah.
Wonderful.
That's great. And never paid attention to that. Usually, like, there's stuff, scenes directly following each other. Suddenly, like 9 years later. But
Yeah.
well done, yeah.
A slow flying plane, nevertheless. Yeah.
Bond asks for his clothes and his attaché case, presumably from Russia with Love, which is a nice little nod, which was sadly damaged.
What did they do with
Probably
Exploded.
Some Korean saying,
Blown up.
talcum powder, yeah.
I'd like to see that deleted scene.
the Korean and a blown up face, yeah.
That should have been like, sounded like such a Mr. Bean or an Austin Powers kind of scene. Like just in the background, you just hear this poof, and then you see this guy covered in talcum powder, rubbing his eyes.
I'm seriously burned.
Bond does take the rest of his briefcase though, and spends most of his time being an annoyance to the waitress. It was either Miley or Miley.
Miley.
Yeah, because it's pronounced differently by Pussy. Bond changes into what is probably one of his best outfits. I'm just looking at Tyler, the 3-piece suit.
Yeah, it looks very good.
This is the quintessential Bond suit.
Probably.
It's probably like people have said that if Bond has like an outfit, like superheroes have an outfit. Like if Bond has an outfit, it's probably the 3-piece grey suit.
This is why I think Big Chief Studios made this replica.
Yeah.
This is what
One of the most
James Bond should
famous-
look like with a mint julep in this suit and his toupee and
His toupee. Don't forget his toupee.
Like I actually know of people like using this as their wedding suit as well, and it's
wouldn't mind,
so
yeah.
good. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Anthony Sinclair makes one. You can still
Is it
order
cheap?
it. Of course, it's like £1,200 or something, but at least you get a knitted tie and a shirt with it as well. So
I was gonna say,
it's not too bad for a
Yeah.
made-to-measure suit. I mean, it's pretty good.
And a flight to London. But
I have to keep that in mind. It's very good.
They make it in navy and in grey, and I believe it's...
No, I want
should
that
show
suit.
with
That
grey,
specific.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a nerd.
Yep.
Yeah.
No
And
navy.
you can also buy the Big Chief one, but it might be too small.
Probably, yes.
Just a little bit.
What about Bond mansplaining everything to Pussy about the gun?
I like that.
You need that because then it comes back at the end of the film.
It's some exposition and some foreshadowing, but so subtle. Like you don't realize it's foreshadowing.
No, it doesn't feel like foreshadowing.
No.
It makes sense at the time as well. Yeah.
Bond and Pussy and Miley land the plane, and Bond is trying his charm on Pussy again. When we are being greeted by Oddjob, who apparently flew ahead with another one of Goldfinger's private planes.
Yeah, they explain it. They explain it.
Flew ahead,
which makes me wonder, how many private planes does Goldfinger have? I know he's rich, but...
He's the richest man in the world.
At least 2.
That was probably why they were flying so slowly, because they needed to be overtaken
It's like 2 trains on the same track, and you have to wait behind the other.
Wait, Goldfinger needs to pass us, so let's wait here.
Something like that.
Bond is being driven to Oryx Goldfinger's stud farm with one of your favorite pieces of music.
Yep, it's it always makes me feel I want to dance and.
I was gonna say you're going to Kentucky, to like that part of America. Of course, you're gonna need a banjo.
Yeah, but in the score sheet there was just banjo solo, and they just asked Flick play something country like on a banjo. Go ahead.
There you go.
He did,
and he did one take, and this is it.
Perfect.
It still fits.
That's a magician for you.
I've never been to Kentucky.
Yeah. It looks like a great set, though. The majestic building. It almost looks too beautiful to be a stud farm. Like, I've never been to a stud farm, but it just looks so very elaborate and grand.
Why does Goldfinger has a stud farm anyway?
Why not?
He likes sports? I don't know.
Probably. He likes to cheat at horse racing as well.
Okay.
Like Zorin.
It doesn't matter what sport it is, as long as you can cheat.
If you consider View to a Kill to be a copy of Goldfinger, then this is maybe why Zorin is cheating at the horse races.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
We skipped over the entire tiny M scene that Bond is on his way to America. Nice of him to let us know. And Felix is on the job.
Oh, yeah. With the White House in the background.
Tiny Moneypenny scene in there.
Yeah.
Nothing really.
No, but it's just nice to, as a viewer, it's nice for me to know that
they still
Felix
exist.
has his back, supposedly, taking care of things from that angle. And then that they know where he is.
Yeah.
Makes you feel
Did you
safe.
receive the package that Q sent you with the sat-nav thing that beeps very annoyingly?
Yeah, because otherwise, how did they get that?
Exactly. No, just checking.
Well, it's Fleming. It's a British film. Of course, the British invent everything and then lend it to the Americans.
Picture lighter getting a package. Beep, beep, beep. What the hell is this? Oh.
How did it get through custom anyway?
You could do that in
those days. Yeah.
Back in the day.
Back at the stud farm, as soon as Bond sees Goldfinger, the first thing he says is an insult. It's like he walks up to him as I don't know what Goldfinger says, but Bond replies with something like certainly better bread than the owner.
Yeah.
And Goldfinger's immediately pissed off. He's like, why did I leave him alive? Take him to the cell. Yeah. Like, can't you say anything nice? But it's always pricking Goldfinger.
The chemistry, or at least the on-screen chemistry between Jean and Gert is just amazing. And it's this scene I really like the mint julep scene that's about to come up as well.
No, I believe
it's very good.
Takes a long time.
Now, I believe we're now in Bond's cell.
Yeah, he checks the bed, how soft is it, and then he thinks, well, better get comfortable. And,
Anyway, small little interlude. When these movies aired in the Netherlands, the first time that I saw them, that was somewhere early 90s.
On the TV.
Yeah. I saw Dr. No with a friend of mine, and I saw From Russia with Love with a friend of mine as well. But on the Saturday that Goldfinger was aired, we couldn't watch the movie. So,
do you remember why?
Yeah, we had something at school, on a Saturday evening, something like a musical or something like
Theater
that.
performance or something.
Yeah, exactly. So we couldn't watch it, so I set a timer on my VCR and it would record and it would start recording 5 minutes before the movie would start.
Is this when summertime kicked in or winter time kicked in?
I'm not sure, but I do remember that when I got home, I didn't hear the purring sound of my VCR. So I immediately pressed record, and this is the moment that movie started, or that tape started.
This is
recording.
where Goldfinger starts.
Yeah, for me, this is where.
What was the
Goldfinger
first
started.
shot that you saw?
Bond on the bed, tapping his shoes.
Oh.
So, and like you do when you are 9-10 years old.
You watch it 10,000 times.
Exactly. I just watched the second part of Goldfinger 10,000 times. So I got a clue from here on out. And it was actually the first time that I saw the movie because I hadn't seen Goldfinger yet. So I've just watched this movie several times from here on out until I finally...
A couple of weeks ago.
Now you know how he got there.
Yeah, now I know how we got there because the first few times I had no clue.
That's amazing. Yeah, I like it that he just decides to get comfortable. It's like, okay, can't do anything.
And that's the subtle little hint, him tapping his shoe, probably unbeknownst, and that's a nice transition to...
True, he knows that they probably
Kentucky
know
Fried
where
Chicken.
he is, but still.
To KFC, yeah.
So we get Kish. I never picked up on his name before preparing for this podcast. Kish is the guy that picks up Goldfinger. Like, you have to come, the gangsters are here.
Goldfinger mentions his name, right?
Thank you, Kish, or something like that. Yeah.
You always thought he was saying kiss. Thank you, kiss.
Thank you, kiss.
Give me a kiss! Give me a kiss!
The guys walked away like, nope.
It's the gangsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's of all the exposition scenes, this is my favorite one, and this is also the bit we can talk about Ken Adam and the beautiful set.
Great set.
Everything just comes together with the floor that moves and
Hey,
the
what's with
billiard
that trick pool table?
Doesn't make sense at all.
How is the model any better than the photo he already has?
It's useless.
Maybe it's not a hobby.
It has little trees. It has little trees.
It's nice miniature trees, miniature cars,
It looks
miniature
nice.
Amazing work.
Why explain the gangster what you're going to do when you're going to gas them 5 minutes later anyway?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's
No,
just...
it doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter.
But it's, you know...
I think he just gets off on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he has a massive hard-on when he's explaining everything. And he just enjoys telling his elaborate plan because he's the criminal mastermind.
They gave him that pool cue because he used to... No, well. Never mind.
This is what I found in the massive book Bond by Design about Ken Adam. He was back because he didn't do From Russia with Love, right?
No,
he was on the Stanley Kubrick's...
Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
As a production designer, Adams' approach was to be involved in every aspect of a film's visuals. He collaborated closely not only with the director, but also with the special effects team, construction, and the costume designer. With an enlarged budget, Adam could indulge in theatrical, stylized sets that took audiences places that they'd never been to before. Places, in fact, that almost no one had been, allowing Adam great freedom of invention. He believed that if you made the exterior of the building realistic, audiences would accept whatever was inside, and he proved this point beautifully with Auric Enterprises' Laser Room, the Kentucky Stud Farm, the Rumpus Room, this is the gangster room, and Fort Knox, the Bullion Depository. And those were interiors purely products of Adam's imagination.
Oh,
So
what an
imagine that. You
imagination,
have a
yeah.
huge budget, and they say, have fun.
Kid in a candy store.
Oh, man.
Just having a blank sheet and, make me a room.
And I love his drawings. If you look at that with the filled pen.
Yeah. There's like a color sketch of the Rumpus room, and I really want to have that as like a vinyl in my living room.
print.
It's one of those things
It's gonna cost
that,
you.
but I don't know if it's an official print for sale, and I really want to have that because it's a thing that us Bond aficionados know it's Bond, but apart from that, it's just very 60s modern design and shows the genius of Ken Adam.
Well, you might be in luck because I think last year or recently the 007 store also had one of his designs printed on a bag from Moonraker.
Yeah.
So, maybe they're going to bring back some of the
Maybe the
Ken
Rumpus
Adam
room.
stuff. Should be really nice.
Yeah.
And the whole plot is being demonstrated. Yeah. Everything that's happening to great detail. All the while, Bond has escaped by somehow getting himself up on the roof, like above his cell door without the guys seeing it. A
They
little
wouldn't,
wink.
they wouldn't do it like this anymore.
Nowadays, in a modern film.
No, in a modern film.
With the wink and the wave and the
they
funny
wouldn't,
music.
no.
Yeah.
And
it's
his
great,
face
though.
when he goes down.
Yeah, it's like the little elevator thing you always do as a kid.
What do you mean as a kid?
Why
still
does
do
the
it.
guard go in? Why does he go in?
Because he doesn't see him anymore, and he thinks, "Huh? Is he a magician? Maybe he
Wouldn't it have
escaped."
been funny if the guy just opens the door, you just hear thunk, and Bond's just sitting there on his knees like, oh.
It's the most inept guard ever. Why did they... He has hundreds of these Korean, Cantonese, whatever, pajama-wearing men. Why did you pick the one inept guard? Well, they're probably all inept.
They're all inept.
But why one? I mean, you've already seen what Bond can do in a car, so...
I'm not sure, but it's probably in the For Your Ears Only podcast or something, where they're like, yes, this is the moment where, as a parent, you look over the edge of your newspaper and say, "That's very nice, son. Now go out and play." It's like that. It's like your 3-year-old son is having fun with his toy elephant or something. That's about it. But it works.
It works.
Yeah, I was going to say, it works. Bond covers the guard, takes his gun, and then by pure chance sees the model, which is very conveniently just risen from the ground. And I was wondering, like, if you look at the amount of lights that are on that model, A, shouldn't Bond be blinded by the light? And B, shouldn't anyone have seen him inside? I mean, the camera zooms in, you can see his entire head.
I think everybody is awed by Goldfinger's speech, listening to what he has to say. I think they're going to get billions, millions.
Delta 9
nerve gas. Oh, I had to write this down. This is one of the best quotes again.
I know what you...
Man has climbed Mount Everest,
Yeah.
gone to the bottom of the ocean. He has fired rockets to the moon.
Split the atom.
Achieved miracles in every field of human endeavor. Except crime! I love that. And that's actually his voice, probably, isn't it?
Yeah.
The except crime. I think that was actually Gert Fröbe.
Yeah?
Dubbed. I think it was, but...
It sounds so good.
Yeah.
It's great.
This is how a Bond villain should be.
I was going to say, to quote Tyler, it's delightfully evil. He revels in his own brilliance.
This is why he gives the speech.
Yeah.
Because he wants to say this. He wants an audience. That's the only reason,
Bond is being saved from a Delta 9 poison death because Pussy has found him with some guards. Was it Kish?
Yeah,
was it,
Kish.
Who proceeds to sort of like body slam Bond into the underpinnings of the model. Which
That's probably why they found him, because they wanted to seal the room.
Yeah.
They just ran into him there.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't hurt Bond in the slightest.
No.
Like, I don't know, if you trip onto something metal, it can hurt. And Bond is just like slammed into it by his feet, and it's just...
James Bond, come on. He doesn't get hurt, especially not in this film.
True.
And immediately he's charming.
Yeah. I was gonna say, the smile.
to judo.
Because this is also really judo. Grabbing someone's ankles.
Back in the
And
days,
then
nobody
just-
knew what judo was, so they all
They probably
accepted
didn't
it.
even know the word, Bond is taking capture. He has written on a note, however, that Operation Grand Slam going to take place and when and where and how. And he decides to put it in the jacket pocket of Mr. Solo.
Mr. Solo.
Yeah, Mr. Solo is then taken away by Goldfinger to the airport. By our job to the airport.
I never noticed that Mr. Solo is smoking a pipe when he's waiting for the car. But
Is
it's
he?
so obvious, but he's standing there with massive eyebrows, smoking the pipe. It looks so funny.
He looks so like a stereotypical gangster, though.
Why
with his
go
suit
through
and
all
hat.
that trouble, sending him off in the car with the gold?
Yeah, because you have to get the gold out of the car.
It's a lot of work to
afterwards.
get it
That's
out
a lot
there.
of work.
How
I
they
also
knock
like
him
the
down
fact
again.
that when they drive off, Pussy says, "I found him under the model," and then Bond says, "Fascinating."
I really enjoyed your explanation of Operation Grand
So did I.
Slam.
And then he's off again.
So
and
did
then
I,
both Pussy and Bond are looking like, okay.
So did I.
A bit
But it's-
stunned.
yeah.
Don't know what to say.
No, it's one of those scenes again we talked about earlier. Is that Goldfinger is so delighted with himself, with his own master plan. It's so confident. So did I, and he just walks off. We have a very, very elaborate scene where Mr. Solo is taken to the airport, or so he thinks. He's being
Felix
followed by
on,
Felix, I don't know who said it, but there's someone who said like this whole scene could be cut and the whole film would probably benefit. You know, because you see Oddjob stopping the car, shooting Solo, driving it off, having it crushed, all of that.
Yeah, it's a bit too long.
Yeah, someone said, you know, if you just
The
have
music
the
is quite
scene,
good.
The
the
music
music is
good,
great. Yeah,
but it's-
yeah. But the scene itself, someone said if you just like
Yeah.
It's just
have the car drive
exposition.
off,
They wouldn't
see what
show
we
it
can do.
nowadays.
No,
yeah,
probably not.
and, like just drive off and then almost immediately like cut to the scene where Oddjob comes driving back in the
Yeah.
pickup with the crushed car in between, and then have Goldfinger say he has to separate the gold from Mr. Solo.
That being said, though, I really like that you can see it.
Yeah.
Before this film, I had never seen a car being crushed like that.
I wish I hadn't seen it because I really love the Continental, and it's like to give you guys an idea what kind of budget that car is in. President Kennedy had the same car himself, and as a personal state car as well. So it was really, really up there with Rolls Royce and everything. So it's a bit hard to watch for me. But
What I found funny is that Felix and the partner of Felix is nameless, right? I don't know. Anyway, they're at the KFC. I really like that they have nothing to do.
Except
But
wait.
They're waiting the entire day, eating fried chicken, and then all of a sudden they have to go for a drive. So they drive for 5 minutes, and then they lose the signal. So they go back to do nothing, to look through binoculars. And then later on, this is a bit ahead, Felix watches Bond go to order a mint julep and everything. And then Felix is... Where is it?
Yeah, he sees Bond and Pussy walking towards the...
That's my James.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Felix says, he has everything well under control. I'm bushed. Let's go. Bushed from what? You did nothing.
Eating too much chicken. He needs to go to the toilet.
No, and in the scene where we were talking about, I really like that little line by Felix. That where's he going? Well, either way, it's either a drink or a day. That's why I like Felix for little lines like that.
In this film, it's a bit more of that Bond-Felix relationship from the book than a lot of other movies. And it's a shame they don't have any scenes together here, like except for the grand finale.
What I do like about this scene, even though it might be superfluous, is that Bond puts his Homer in the pocket of Mr. Solo. So you're kind of like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Is Felix going to find it? Is going to find the note? So there is some tension there. But then after Solo says, boy, and someone opens the door for him, and he drives off. And they pass the airport sign, and he's shot. It's like, oh, okay. It's not going to... How is Bond going to get out of this one?
We now have another great exposition scene and some calculation for you, Don.
You mean between Bond and Goldfinger?
Yeah, about Bond doing the calculations in his cell with...
It takes 50 men to lead.
I do like the little scene prior to that with Goldfinger and Pussy, because Goldfinger is gently
when he's
touching
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the money? And then she pulls the...
He's very touchy with her hand. She's not having it.
But when she goes to get dressed for the occasion, the smile on the face once again. He's laughing, like really enjoying himself and the scheme and everything that's going on.
But I did notice that too. Yeah. Oh, those darn lesbians.
Darn lesbians.
Well, and then Bond is in his cell with like 5 or 6 or whatever.
27 Koreans,
and Kish picks him up.
As I said, it's another great... I don't know, have you written it down, everything? Like the
I have
complete
written
thing?
it down.
Of
He
course.
orders a mint julep, sour mash, not too sweet. And then Delta 9 is fatal, and it will kill 60,000 people. And then Goldfinger just shrugs it off, saying, American motorists kill that many every 2 years. And then Bond has done excellent math all of a sudden. $15 billion of gold, weighs 10,500 tons. 60 men, not 50, 60
Sorry.
men, I don't know, whatever. 60 men would take 12 days to load it onto 200 trucks. But he would only have 2 hours maximum.
Before Navy, Army, Marine,
Yeah.
come in, make you
Everyone,
put it back.
Yeah, make you put it back. I always like
But
imagine.
Goldfinger's enjoying this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Go on, Mr. Bond.
Figure it out for yourself. Come on.
And I also really love like Bond's acknowledgement. Holy shit, you're
inspired.
so
Yeah.
clever. Yeah, he's
But
like
the
like
atomic
completely
device.
baffled. Yeah, and then like
Already, obviously, in the country.
Obviously.
Okay, let's try to get more information out of Goldfinger.
get more of it. And then like the way he just sits there with his lapel like all like chest forward, like he's so assured of his case. And
Yeah.
to be honest, it's probably one of the most well thought of plans in any of the Bond plots.
Except that it's a gold reserve, so you can just wait for 56 years. 58 to be exact.
Which is about now, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Goldfinger
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
64.
you just leave it there for 60 years and then everything is okay again. I mean, the only thing...
Yeah, but
that-
Goldfinger would have died by then, probably.
No, but the only thing that you make sure of is that nobody's going to steal that gold because it's radiated.
Yeah, I guess.
So,
But Goldfinger doesn't care. Like, in the meantime, in that 58 years, he's gonna be one of the richest men in the world, even
but
richer.
will his gold really quadruple in value?
He thinks so.
Well, yeah.
I think it's just a feeling for him.
Yeah,
I have the
it
biggest
doesn't
amount of
matter.
gold.
It works for the movie.
and it sounds
It's a great
believable in a
movie, come
way.
on.
So, yeah.
Okay, let's get Pussy back in the game. Or do you want something?
Yeah, well, here Goldfinger also says to Pussy when he's trying to touch her and she's not having it, he says, it's a good thing that we left Mr. Bond alive because he sees Felix watching. But again, I don't really understand it because if he assumes that those two are men trying to find Bond, then they probably already know that he's up to no good.
Yeah, but then they can show him
That nothing's going on.
That Bond is fine. He's enjoying himself
But why would Bond be fine and enjoying himself but not report anything?
because
They
maybe there's
have
nothing
to know he's under
report.
duress.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, especially after
I'm
his
overthinking
homing.
things.
You're overthinking.
Okay, thank you.
However, in the novel, they do know that he's being captured because Goldfinger sent a cable to
Yes.
MI6, and because he
On
doesn't,
behalf of James Bond.
and because he didn't use the right code words and little
immediately
subtleties.
the cogs started working
Yeah.
within MI6 and they
Yeah.
knew things were wrong. That actually makes more sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what I really like again is I wrote it down here like Goldfinger's like a child on the morning of his birthday. He gets so happy.
Yeah.
He's like,
I can see that. Yeah,
and then Oddjob returns with Mr. Solo, the late Mr. Solo.
gold covered with guts and blood and
Yeah, and he
No,
needs
it
to get
isn't,
the gold
because
out of it.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
the
like,
person-
if you look at the actual scene, like, there's no engine, no transmission in the car, but there's also no body in the car, which they show very blatantly, because, like, half the roof is chopped up. Or Mr. Solo was still alive, and he hid himself under the front
I
seat.
can quite clearly see there's no one in the car when they're crushing it, but it's
Oh, well.
filmmaking.
He's there, yeah.
They could have put a doll in there, but it's okay.
By the way, Blu-ray isn't really
Probably
Kind
good for
of
that.
this film.
No.
Not at all.
especially on the guinea pig.
No, on the one hand, the films look amazing in HD.
Yeah.
If you look at sceneries or clothing or just colors, they're very vibrant
Yeah.
and wonderful and perfect.
Yeah.
But all the gimmickry or the visual effects, those didn't really date
No.
that well.
No, but also the guinea pig that Connery is wearing on his head. It's really, really obvious.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
poor thing looks hungry. Just feed it, man. No, really, look at it. Poor thing.
Let's go to the stables.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have the
The new Miss Galore.
new Miss Galore, exactly, yeah. So, Bond and Pussy tries his charm yet again.
I'm completely defenseless.
Yeah, right.
Let me take off my bra.
And it's a scene like we said before, like the film shouldn't be judged by today's standards, but
Well,
is it-
let's.
it's
Let's.
It is a bit uncomfortable. Let's be honest.
No, it's more than a bit uncomfortable. It makes absolutely no sense.
well,
If I look
not
at
first,
it
but
today, Bond is such an amazing kisser that
within 10 seconds.
Pussy decides not to use the gas and
Yeah.
go over to the good guys. Even though she keeps saying, no, don't touch me, keep away from me, I don't want anything to do with you. Oh, your lips touch my lips. I'm
Okay.
melting.
No, but maybe they had a conversation afterwards. You don't see it. So
Bond did
first they
some-
made love, and afterwards they had a conversation. And
They
then
made some
Pussy
calculations.
thought,
Okay, talk about the behavior of Bond.
Yeah,
Is
okay.
that appropriate?
No.
Forcing himself on top of a woman that clearly several times says no.
I don't have a problem with it.
I do. I have a big
Because
problem.
it is, he knows that the only way to prevent Goldfinger from achieving his goal is the weak spot is Pussy trying to get.
I know. I can understand it from James Bond's point of view. I can completely understand it. I know also that he's not a perfect man. I know also that he's not a perfect role model and everything. But just looking at this scene with my wife or my kids, it's very hard to defend that. This is okay behavior. I can't. I really have difficulty
it's
with
not
that.
okay behavior. But does it have to? I mean, kicking off somebody from a cliff.
Clearly isn't well.
Is that okay behavior?
No, I agree. I completely
So yeah,
agree.
it's.
But these scenes are the sensitive scenes of today's age.
This didn't age well.
No, it really didn't. And it's already better than it is in the book, but it's...
I think this aged better than Fetch My Shoes. Because
know.
this
That
makes
is up there.
kind of makes sense from a character perspective. While saying to a friend, fetch my shoes, who happens to be black, it doesn't make sense at all.
I get that. Like we also talked about in Dr. No, is that Bond was pretty much bossing everybody around. So it's not personal to... It's not because Quarrel is a black guy from Jamaica that he says it like that, I think. It's just, he talks to everybody like that.
And I'm sorry, but how is this better than it was in the book? Because in the book it's just Pussy at the end of the novel who says, all right.
She decides to be with him. I'm on your side.
There's no...
Hello, Hansel.
No,
There's forcing.
Yeah, well, maybe I should have phrased it differently. But I mean, the whole turning scene and the whole relationship between Bond and Pussy, and not having Tilly there with the whole.
What I do like
love her.
better in the book is that how the plan was thwarted. Because here, however horrible I think it is that Bond does this to Pussy, and I don't think Pussy minds that much, and even the actress thinks it's quite okay after.
It was probably okay in 1964.
Oh, it might have been.
Yeah.
But then, because this happens, she helps switching the gas canisters, right?
Yep.
So then the plan is thwarted. I find that more believable than the way the book handles it by Bond, just writing down extensive notes on the entire plan and taping it to the inside of a toilet on an airplane. And then the plans are being found and everything is set into motion.
Yeah.
That is a pretty much far-fetched solution to this problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Talking about far-fetched, I can verify this, but it was said that there is quite an elaborate deleted scene where
they talk things through.
Where like Felix is with the whole group of citizens of the Fort Knox region, talking everything through, that they will stage accidents and that they'll have to do that in order to catch him, and that it was like screened somewhere, or there's still some film reel in some dusty old room somewhere, but that they cut it because it would make Felix look more like the hero because he says everything on.
And it would ruin
instead
the
of
entire
Bond.
surprise when all the
exactly.
jump
But
up all of a sudden.
I think it's one of those scenes I really would have liked to see, just to see how it plays out.
No, because I think what Tyler says would ruin the surprise.
Yeah, but like if there's like any deleted scene from any one film, I want to see it.
I would like to see it.
But not incorporated in the film.
No, just on its own. Yeah.
Maybe another reason why I don't like this is because of the flippancy of the scene. When Bond forces himself on Pussy, the music is very light. So it tries to show
Feels
you
romantic,
that,
maybe, yeah.
or this is not serious behavior, or don't take this too badly, or something. But it's kind of like it tries to justify what we're looking at because it's played for laughs, and also Bond has a smirk on his face the entire time. It's kind of like, I'm liking what's happening here, even though Pussy's not liking it.
But then you assume that in 1964 it was received the way you are looking at it now. And I don't think it was received that way. I do really think that times were different then. Yeah. Nowadays, you ask someone in for coffee. In 1964, you just
jump them and see what happens.
did some judo on them or something. I mean,
flower power, all those. Yeah.
Just like what I said in our Casino Royale book review. Nowadays, we think that the way we think about the world right now is
Yeah,
the
it's
best
very-
way.
yeah.
And 20 years from now, we will all be looking back at 2019
Thinking
and
it's-
think, my God, what were we thinking? And the exact
yeah.
same thing goes with this as well. In
I'll give you
1964,
that. I'll give you that,
they
definitely.
thought, look at us being forward and liberal and everything, and look at us being the center of the universe and the center of freedom and democracy and everything. And nowadays you look at it and think that actually is pretty close to sexual assault.
Yeah.
And what we see now as being good and proper and will look terrible 20 years from now, I can assure you. So
I'll give you that. Yeah.
We're gonna record this podcast again in 2039. Let's see if Tyler is right.
39.
yeah.
That would be amazing, actually.
No, but that being said, though, still we are recording this podcast now, and with everything that we know of all. Yeah.
Shall we go
Yeah,
to
sure.
one of the most fantastic scores from this soundtrack?
Yeah. Even Tyler appreciates it.
I
Downright
enjoy
on
this
Ford
soundtrack.
next.
Yeah, it's so grand
Yeah.
and big and majestic and
Yeah, it's
like you can
great.
only hear like
It's
those
fantastic,
few
yeah.
notes and you instantly know what is happening, what
Yeah.
film, what scene. It's great.
The baby
Yeah.
is asleep. The baby is asleep.
Yeah.
5, 4,
Like
3, 0. For some reason, they skip a couple.
Yeah, I also love like the planes fly overhead and like within half a second the gas is down when people all fall down.
Yeah.
I just like the fact that you see the entire operation unfold.
Yeah,
We don't see
it's
that
great.
a lot in the Bond films, I think.
And they take their time. They take
Yeah.
3 minutes to show the same soldiers falling and falling
Yeah.
again and again from different angles.
And I like how they actually, as I said before, staged accidents and all that stuff. They went to
Yeah.
great lengths to also fool us,
Yeah.
the audience, that everything is,
Yeah.
it's Bond is really in a hurry. I can actually remember, like, the first time I saw this, like, looking at the VHS player, like, okay, we've been running for well over an hour now. It's almost an hour and a half. When's Bond going to save the world? I had no idea what's going on. So I think that's a very well thought out scene.
Yeah.
And even Bond is looking around, with the gas mask and everything.
Yeah,
he's
but
like,
also
well,
kind of helpless.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do. He
No.
really thinks, and especially with the shot with them driving past the car with Felix hanging
Yeah.
out of it, you as an audience really think like, shit is about
That's
to
one of the last
get
shots,
real.
right? When you see Felix.
Yeah, then they enter
It's
the
like, whoa,
Fort Knox
even
compound.
Felix is dead.
Yeah.
In the book, I think it's one of the gangsters asking Goldfinger how he's gonna knock out all those people, and he says something like, or the gangster asks, "Are you gonna use gas or something?" And Goldfinger just poo-poos the idea. It's like, no, that won't work.
Something in the water supply.
Yeah, put
right?
something
Yeah.
in the water
Yeah.
supply. Yeah.
Still better than in one of the Gardner novels that use ice creams. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
They use ice creams to.
It's probably
also
for
for
special
make sure-
services, the one with cedar lighter.
Yeah, I think it's that one. And then everybody seems to
Make
use
sure.
the same.
And
Yeah, ridiculous.
around the same height. We then have Goldfinger arriving in his helicopter with the bomb piloted by Pussy again.
Are we gonna talk about the soldiers falling over before planes actually flew over?
No, that's what I
I
just said.
never noticed that before, Don.
That's what I just said. Like, you have the planes flying over, and like half a millisecond later, they all fall down.
Oh, yeah.
Like
And very
gas taking-
soft landings.
And
It's
so,
not
some
like-
of them are really aiming for the spot they
that's
want
where
to
I'm
fall.
gonna- yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
But I
compare
love the
to
way
it.
in one of the documentaries, it's like, okay, so I blow my whistle once, you look up. I blow my whistle twice, you fall down. That's how they filmed it.
Yeah.
It's like,
And they all go like dominoes, like but at the same time. It's great, yeah.
Really effective nerve gas.
Very good, very effective, yeah. Goldfinger arrives in the helicopter with Pussy and the bomb. And then we have, is it the same laser again? If it's, on the cutting table in the back of the... Yeah.
But first you have to blow up the gate and check the...
Which was done by Michael G. Wilson, by the way, the cable line. Because there's like 3 or 4 like 5 feet people, and there's one 20-foot Korean standing there, and it's so obviously Michael G. Wilson.
Yeah.
And is this his first? I think it's his first
Yeah.
cameo. Yeah.
And I like the gadget they use to measure if the toxic...
The spectrometer.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
orange spectrometer. It's great. Yeah, you have to get Spectre in there somehow.
Spectrometer.
The gate is dynamited. Now, I read on the Living Daylights, when they landed the helicopter of the Red Cross on the grass to get General Koskov out, that the Red Cross didn't like it, that they used the Red Cross for that. But here they use the Red Cross Jeep to bring in an industrial laser.
Yeah.
But nobody complained about that.
Not back in
different
the days.
times, maybe.
Yeah.
Too blown away by the rest of the scene to actually.
I really like how all the henchmen know exactly what they're
Yeah.
supposed to be
Very
doing.
well instructed. Yeah.
They're not that inept, those
No,
Korean
they're not.
They're
pyjama
very
wearing
loyal, very
guys.
punctual, yeah.
Quiche inspecting
And then we
everything.
get the terrific gold cathedral, which is the
Yeah.
inside of Fort
one
Knox.
of the like the very second the vault door opens, it's just, if someone had asked me what do you think a gold supply looks like,
Not like this.
it's in your imagination, it's pure like eye
It's not
candy.
realistic
No,
at
but it
all.
looks wonderful. It
It's
looks
not realistic,
absolutely amazing.
It's
You can't
also
stack a gold
No,
that high, right?
exactly.
it's also the inspiration for Donald Trump's apartment. Really?
Is that true?
Of course not. But I thought it was a nice joke.
Because Donald Trump kind of looks like Goldfinger. When you see him walking around.
Maybe he was the double at the
Miami. That's him.
From getting inspiration from Goldfinger. Yeah, we'll
Now,
give the guy 1 point.
We
anyway.
have to be very thankful for Peter Hunt because he's an excellent editor. But sometimes someone had to explain to him how time works.
With the bomb.
With bombs and clocks and time.
Doesn't.
It's
it doesn't.
rubbish.
10, 9, 8. Short. 6.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all.
No, but just go with it, I guess. Just
What I like is the fact that when the soldiers arrive and
as soon as the bomb is armed,
and the soldiers
and they know that the bomb is there,
yeah,
then they can act because then they can take hold of the bomb. And the first thing you see is Felix awake. It's like, oh, thank God, he's
not
alive.
dead. Yeah.
So Felix saves the day, and Bond is basically there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't do anything.
Well,
he
that just
opens
wraps up
the case of the bomb eventually.
But he doesn't know how to.
He takes out
just
Odd
takes
Job.
care- Yeah, he takes care of
that's
Odd
it.
Job.
Yeah.
That's pretty good though. Otherwise, the other ones would have.
The other 20 military soldiers
have no
shoot
chance.
down
No
Odd
idea
Job.
how
How
chance.
to shoot down
So
a Korean man, yeah.
with one toss of his special hat.
He could kill 30 people all in a
So-
row, like dominoes again.
Let's just say Felix Leiter is really the hero of Goldfinger.
Yeah.
But Goldfinger is wearing an American
Yeah,
army
that
uniform.
is
I really like that.
Yeah.
So
Like,
inventive, having a plan B.
I know that I'm the greatest villain ever, and my
Still-
plan is foolproof, gentlemen.
Except
However, just in case,
Just
I
in
will
case
put on my
somebody-
army uniform, just in case.
Now, I love how Goldfinger, as soon as like shit goes down, he immediately turns around and shoots Ling. He's like so ruthless. Like, oh shit, boom, there we go.
Yeah.
And then he walks away, like he gives instructions to the guys, and like despite him, Goldfinger being a very highly decorated man, they don't recognize him as being someone he shouldn't be or whatever. They just, you have some stars and stripes on your shoulder. I'll just listen to you.
what I really like is that as soon as Goldfinger hears soldiers outside, the first thing he does is he runs to the combination of the vault to close the vault.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that springs to mind.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever they do, they mustn't get into the
No.
vault.
My plan.
And what I
must
like
go
as well
on.
is that inside the vault,
Oddjob is loyal.
Oddjob is as
Kish wants
loyal.
to- wants to get
and
out.
he knows, okay, I was going to die here, but it doesn't matter.
doesn't
We're
matter.
not going to open
I'm
the
a happy-
vault.
happy- happy
We're not
chap.
going to, disarm the
do
bomb.
anything. Yeah, I was gonna say he throws the guy into the camera. Was a very good shot.
That's-
so it's one you always
Yeah, it's a
see
good shot.
in like
Yeah.
in compilations and stuff.
Did
quite
Oddjob actually think that he would survive an atomic blast?
No.
No, are you sure? Because, I mean, he survives everything. He's super
He's
strong, so
yeah.
maybe he thought, well, an atomic bomb,
He-
I can take it. Aha.
bring it on.
I just ate a billiard table, so I'm good to go.
He's probably going to eat the bomb as well. Like.
He's gonna eat the bomb. Just
Maybe.
a boom.
So then we get the fight
Just give
between...
him the fight between Bond and
That's a
and Oddjob.
You know, as good as it is, it's also a little bit silly.
I know
Yeah.
what you mean. It's not as
It's a bit
iconic
clumsy.
as you remember it or as you hope it would be.
I think
recently
it's,
rewatched it and I thought it's not that exciting. Actually,
I think
the fight.
it's more like the death that's iconic and the scene than the fight itself,
Yeah.
which is a bit.
Oddjob had too many opportunities to just
Yeah.
take out Bond,
Yeah.
which he doesn't take. That doesn't make sense.
No.
He seems to be enjoying himself.
But it's not exciting. It's not like
No.
from Russia with Love that you see a tense fight scene. It's just
Yeah.
Bond trying
The
to.
idea of the fight is more exciting or more tense than the actual
Uh-huh.
fight. When he's running down the stairs
Yeah.
and he wants to throw the hat, you're like, come on, hurry up, unlock yourself. Come on,
That's
hurry
more
up,
exciting
than
than
the
the
actual
hat, yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
I have a
Somehow-
different view because I think the way the fight is choreographed really shows that Bond has absolutely no chance in hell
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing you see. You see him chucking bricks of gold at him,
Which just
and
bounce off like
they bounce off, and he
Yeah.
just
Bars,
keeps
yeah.
smiling. And
Like I say,
he
he-
has no chance at all. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, he grabs the hat, and you think, okay, so he's going to
Oddjob
kill
prepares.
him with the hat. That's smart.
just like
Yeah.
yeah.
And then he misses. And then you see that smile returning on Oddjob's face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna
Disappeared.
collect my hat.
Yeah, that disappeared for just a split second. And then he's like, okay, here we go again. I will get my head. And I kind of like it. I like
There's
the
a sense of
total
danger.
ineptness of Bond in fighting Oddjob. It's like fighting a tank.
I agree with you
Yeah,
on that, but it's not exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I
Maybe
think
not
it's-
fast paced, but there's definitely something there. And again, with the foreshadowing, with the hat cutting cutting the wires. No, it's foreshadowing that you don't know is actually foreshadowing. It's very well done. And the grand finale, it's one of those iconic moments with Oddjob being fried to the bars and actually like real life Harold Sakata getting burns because he didn't say cut, so he just stood there and got burned.
Oddjob the original Kentucky Fried Chicken?
Well, when you're,
puns, ladies and
when you're
gentlemen.
discussing things that haven't aged well, in 1964 they decided not to use lines from the Fleming novel like you Koreans are all apes and
Yeah.
so
Thank God they didn't.
exactly so
Yeah.
they even started doing that in 1964. So
Yeah.
they
Time
might
does
have called him
progress,
a
yeah.
Kentucky Fried Chicken. That would have been good. That's
would
probably
have
that
been-
would still work. Yeah.
So Oddjob is dead.
Oddjob is dead.
Oh,
But we still have a bomb.
Yeah, and 7 seconds.
approximately. Yeah.
I
taken
like
out.
how the guy looks at Bond like, you idiot. It's right there. It's like
Yeah.
that big red button that says off.
I like it that Bond tries to slow down the bomb by just holding a wheel.
Trying to stop
Yeah.
the wheel from
Trying to
turning.
hold the
and
car.
He's just completely helpless.
Yeah.
It's just only by like opening the vault door and Felix and everyone getting in that everything is saved.
Once again, Felix is the hero of this
Yeah.
film.
Yeah. No, Felix doesn't stop the bomb, right? It's a
No,
different-
it's somebody
It's
else.
Yeah.
some.
This is one of the poorest time editing things, I think.
Yeah, but they did it in post, right? Because someone told
Yeah.
them, like, it would be funny if it stops at 7. But they
Yeah, but I also mean that Felix
Prior
comes
to
in
that.
when there are only 10 seconds
Oh,
left.
And then
yeah,
in
it
3
runs
seconds
down,
he goes
yeah.
It's right there.
7
Yeah.
stores.
he probably did like a guard jump on top of the camera instead of.
Probably.
The bomb is diffused and the world is saved, or at least Fort Knox is saved.
Thank heavens.
But Goldfinger is gone.
Let's go to the president.
Yeah, I was going to say, Goldfinger is still at large. You know his play, you know where he is, you know all his hideouts. Let's send Bond to the president.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, lunch.
I'm sure they're gonna capture Goldfinger soon.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to hide.
I like the shots of Bond in the plane, just
Playing on his
playing
hair.
around, touching. I don't know what he's touching.
Everything,
A little bit bored.
I like the tune here as well. It's a very
Yeah.
happy tune, and everybody's waving.
Yeah.
It's the same plane, right?
Yeah, it's the different
Goldfinger
side, yeah.
plane, but they painted.
Yeah, one half the other one, yeah.
I like,
That's
and
good.
here you have the liquor for 3 line from
Yeah.
Felix. Who are the other two?
There are no other two.
Yeah.
And I really like the first thing that Bond does when he sees Goldfinger with the golden gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, are you having lunch at the White House too?
Once again,
How can you come up with that line so quick? But also,
not afraid at all. There he is, the main villain, once again with a gun,
With a gun.
pointing at you. Oh you're having lunch in Midas as well.
Oh, Goldfinger must be mad as hell. Like, this guy again.
Every fiber in his body, you stop him from
Be a
shooting.
good boy and die.
And then we also have the Korean guy in the background.
Yeah.
which was
A henchman.
Henchman, and then disappears and then is lying on the ground.
In the book, Oddjob is there.
Yeah.
Bond is being smuggled onto the plane, unconscious, by a doctor, supposedly to be a doctor. And he's handcuffed to Oddjob or something, or handcuffed to the chair. And, he wants to be uncuffed, and then he wants to tell Goldfinger how he got there, how he stopped his plan and everything. But there are a lot of people in the plane. And he punches through a perspex window, and Oddjob is sucked out.
Yeah.
Like toothpaste. Then the buttocks. So that's how Oddjob dies. And I think Goldfinger is strangled to death, right?
Yeah.
They're strangling each other. I think I prefer the film version, where Oddjob has his own fight and his own death.
Absolutely.
And now Goldfinger is sucked out.
Yeah, which is quite gruesome death, actually.
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
sucked out through such a small
Horrible.
window. I mean,
Great effects, I
Yeah.
think, for 64.
Yeah, for
For
the time
64,
being,
yeah. It looked
The,
kind of
the actual flying of Goldfinger.
Goldfinger.
That looks a bit silly.
The helpless flailing arms, yeah.
And again, the... That won them an Oscar.
Yep, Oscar.
Yeah, a pussy behind the controls, trying to make
Desperately
sense of it all.
trying to make it, yeah.
No, now I know it. It's the sound of the Homer that won the Oscar.
Maybe that's it.
That's the one.
But they had to invent lots of sounds for this
laser.
film. Yeah, pretty good.
So
Goldfinger is sucked out. Everybody
Plane
watches
goes
the
down.
screen. Felix and everybody is like looking at the screen. Oh, no,
Yeah, and they
it's
see
a dot.
rapidly going down.
Yeah.
But two small little dots pop out. Or
No,
dot
one dot
Yeah,
pops
one
out, and the
dot
other one
pops out,
crashes,
yeah.
and the plane explodes.
The plane is
obviously.
made in the same factory as Dr. No's hearse and the Mercedes earlier in the film. It explodes upon impact. And we then cut to the helicopter looking for Bond and Pussy, which I'm like, I don't know where they were, but flying over an ocean.
They're at
going
Pinewood.
from Kentucky to... No, but like they're flying over an ocean, going from Kentucky to Washington. I'm like, I don't think there's an ocean there. Unless you
Why
go
are
there
they
when-
flying? They could be flying over a lake.
Well, like,
yeah,
this is-
it's a lake.
But anyway, they're like over this big lake because you don't see anything in the distance for miles. They jump out, the plane's going down rapidly, and all of a sudden they're in the middle of a forest.
No, it's Pinewood.
But yeah,
But yeah.
It works.
But it's an old movie, and then we accept all those
Yeah.
stuff. If it's a
Yeah.
new movie,
True,
then we would
true.
say it's ridiculous.
Yes.
But I kind of understand James Bond here at the end. It's like
there
first
are no
things
red
first.
oak trees in Kentucky or something.
But at least he has his priorities straight. I mean,
There's no time for
It's
being
no time
rescued.
to rescue.
no time to be rescued. Exactly.
Yep.
and we end once again with the big glaring horns. Like I said, I think the song works a lot better in the film than independent.
And I still
Film.
disagree with you, but that's
In the way that it really adds something to the scene.
yeah, true.
It's a better one than like the ending music for Dr. No, for example. No, it really grabs your attention again.
This is the only time Sean Connery doesn't end up on a boat, right? With this leading lady. Even in Diamonds, they're on a big boat.
Well, a Thunderball, they end up in the air, technically. So.
Yeah, but prior to
they're in
that,
the boat.
they're on a boat.
Yeah, but okay, they're up
Technically,
in the air. I don't know why you would do that if you have Domino right there.
No, me neither.
This is no time to be rescued. I mean,
exactly.
if ever there wasn't a time to be rescued, it was then.
in Bond and Domino are the first members of the Mile High Club. Hanging from a plane.
If
Yes.
you can do it at the bottom of the ocean, you can probably do it up in the air.
You can do it.
Outer
Yeah.
space, you can do whatever everything.
Another time.
Yep.
Another place.
So, anyway, roll credits. And we're at the
Yeah.
end of Goldfinger.
And they immediately announce Thunderball. I like that.
When they started making Goldfinger, they really needed to hurry because Kevin McClory was already working on Thunderball. So they were really scared that he would make Thunderball at the same time. And it
With a
would-
different actor.
Yeah, exactly. And release it at the same time as Goldfinger. So they
Kevin McClory also didn't want to do that in the end, right? Because he was afraid, because Sean Connery was so
No,
much...
First of all, he thought he would be able to get Sean Connery to play in Thunderball as well in his competing Bond movie, and then they were like, "No, that's never gonna happen because contract and things like that." And then he was like, "Maybe it's better to cooperate with the Jan."
But they were churning out these films in months. It was,
Yeah, because they were halfway through shooting Goldfinger when From Russia with Love was released in the cinemas in the US.
Yeah.
So
Can you imagine?
Yeah,
I can imagine. I
But
can
just
imagine.
Every day when I wake up, I
This is pretty
imagine
much
it.
how Marvel nowadays makes
Yeah.
films. Yeah.
But
Or Star Wars. It's just
It would be terrific if you have a Bond film every year with the quality of From Russia with Love, Goldfinger.
It's not only that they make many of them, but good ones as
good
well.
ones, yeah.
Yeah, but we wouldn't accept a movie like From Russia with Love or Goldfinger nowadays.
Oh, okay.
well,
But
we
I-
would,
but-
but
but I
general
mean-
audience wouldn't. No.
Yeah.
So time for our scores. Anyone wants to go first? Tyler, Anthony,
The
Don?
ranking of the film.
Sure. Well, I think we've already said it a couple of times. There are several scenes in this movie that could be the most iconic scene in the entire Bond franchise. I can see why this is and I can't really understand why we haven't used this term the last 4 hours, but why this is the gold standard in Bond
Yeah.
movies. But it's not my favorite movie. I think it's a great movie, but Bond doesn't really do much, especially the last hour. He's not really the hero. There are some things in there that might not look terribly great nowadays. So I give it an 8.
An 8. Okay. Anthony?
It's a 60s Bond.
So it's a 10 by default.
So it's within my top 10. As a matter of fact, Goldfinger is in my top 5. I really, really enjoy the film. I think maybe from all the Bond films, this is the one I enjoy the most, rewatching over and over again, because it's so iconic and it's just so much fun to watch. It's an easy watch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
I like Connery, maybe best of all his performances here. Goldfinger is one of my favorite Bond villains. Oddjob is my favorite Bond. Henchman, I can, continue for another hour. Well, let's not do that. But I'm going to give it a 9.5.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Ooh, that's not bad.
No, it's in my top 5, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I tweeted about this film that we're going to record this. And I asked, I had a Twitter poll, how high do you rank this film? And more than 90%, I think, or about 90% said it's in my top 8.
Yeah.
And about 40 or 45% said it's
Something
in my
like
top
that.
3 even.
Yeah.
So pretty much everybody that voted, and we had over 100 votes, I think, says it's at least a top 8 film.
Yeah, but I guess that's because, as we've established in these, in this past 2-3 hours, it's everything. Like, if someone's attracted to Bond, it's because of something that's in this movie. It's all the action, the soundtrack, the car, the everything.
And I'm going to agree with that. And it has many iconic scenes. It had my favorite scene of the entire franchise in this, with the lovely, lovely little maid and then Jill Masterson on the bed.
suite.
Oh, that's perfect. I love the music. I love the car. I love Sean Connery in this. This is maybe my favorite villain, my favorite song, even without the film or whatever.
Is it?
However,
there are also I have a few issues with it, and I couldn't have said it better than you, Tyler. And I came to the same conclusion, that it's a great film, but I'm going to give it an 8 as well, because of other films that I rank higher, that I appreciate more. It's the lack of action from Bond. It's the scenes that I'm uncomfortable with nowadays. It's What I really like is that it is very fast-paced. It goes from A to B to C. It never goes back. A quick film, a quick watch, but it's an 8 for me.
Right, that leaves me. Well, I can't really add that much to what has been said before. It's just a tremendous joy to watch this film, and I can pretty much watch it every day of the week. In fact, whenever I would be sick or alone at home, I just want to watch a Bond film. It was like probably 50% of the time it's Goldfinger, because it has everything I enjoyed tremendously, including the cast and that beautiful, beautiful DB5. There are some flaws in it, as we've discussed, but not enough for me to really give it that much bashing, so it gets a very solid 9 from me as well.
Yeah, that's very good. Very good. So that gives it a total of 34 and a half. Yeah. Divided by 4 is below a 9. Makes it below a 9. But someone has a calculator?
So it's an 8.6.
Yep.
It's an 8.6 that places it above Dr. No, but below
Casino Royale,
which is still the number 1 for now.
Okay.
So we will be back with another film review, but not a James Bond film. We have decided to take a little detour and have a look at another spy film, which is somewhat related to Ian Fleming. Our next film review, we will talk about The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And we mean the film from 2015, directed by Guy Ritchie and starring Henry Cavill, Armie Hammer, and Alicia Vikander. However, the 00 Files will also be taking a short summer break, meaning there will probably be a couple of podcasts still in July, but we will be recharging our batteries in August, and then on September 1st, we will be back with a review of The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
So, thank you very much for listening to this one. If you have anything to add for our review for The Man from U.N.C.L.E., any tips, any thoughts on that, any things you think we should be talking about, please email us at moneypenny@the00files.com or reach out through our social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. That's it for now. Thank you very much for listening, and until the next one.
Ba, ba, ba. Or something like that.